happens in our country, does it? In fact, a war on crime, I say, would actually be decidedly pro-poor, as, resources would be directed. If you look at the stats, you'll find contact crimes that affect mainly the poor and people who commute to and from work and various areas. Those are the high crimes that happen daily. And I think a war on crime would really serve those. The communities such as the one in Thulasizwe, where this incident happened, would get more resources if we were to decide that we're declaring a war on crime. And I want to share this with you, South Africa. It's something I've held back over, a number of years. I used to have a list of countries that I would say, that country is so dangerous that I would vow and say, never in a million years would I visit that country. Back then, that list for me included countries such as Colombia, where there was that insurgency that was playing itself out. You used to see those kidnappings. It used to include Mexico, countries such as Mexico, with all the drug cartels and everything, and the kidnappings. And you would hear stories of mass killings on the beach, and you would say bodies found on the beach in peacetime, in a country that was at peacetime. A lot has happened, of course, in those countries since then, and the extent to which they have been successful or otherwise in fighting those crimes, I'm not particularly familiar with, but certainly I don't hear the reports as I used to hear them. At this point, I would say, we don't have that luxury as South Africans. We can't say that country is so dangerous I can never visit it. It's time for us to stand up, South Africa. It's time for us to demand answers. And yes, this is one of those occasions where you're not going to get colorless neutrality from me. Absolutely not. I'm outraged. And I unashamedly invite you to be outraged with me. This is not normal. We deserve a war on crime now. And that's my take. You can engage me on it, of course, and weigh in on this situation. I will take your calls, and that number to dial 086 000 2032. And your WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. Sorry to do this so early in the morning. The Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Health experts say that taking care of your baby starts the day you learn you have conceived. Changes should start immediately, from what you eat to how you take care of yourself. After you've delivered your baby, does the worry stop? No, it doesn't. From there, it's clinic visits, breastfeeding, introducing solids, and the list goes on. If you're a mom, father, or caregiver and are curious on how to support your kids' development to reach their full potential, or even concerned about the nutrition that strengthens their bodies, then our new SABC Education feature, Side by Side, is for you. Get all the advice you need from the Department of Health by tuning in every Wednesday and Thursday at 2:30 p.m. on The Full Circle on SAFM, starting in October. Tune into the feature and you could win 1,000 Rand with our monthly competition. Side by Side, brought to you by SABC Education on SAFM, leading the conversation.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
All right, let's check in with Ann Musa for that. Ann, good morning. Did you have a good weekend?
Good morning, Thulas. I did have a good one. Yourself?
Unfortunately, Ann, I'm in a bad mood this morning.
I could sense that. Picked it up. Very sad. Very,
and I hope
very
it's not
sad.
a fleeting mood. I don't think it should be a fleeting mood. I think this should be a permanent state until the tide starts to turn on crime in this country.
Very true, because, lots have to be done.
Absolutely.
18 lives lost.
Yeah, and it's not the first incident of its nature. We get outraged, and then a few months from now, we've forgotten about it.
Exactly.
All right, what do you have on the diary, Anne?
Well, focusing especially at the weather conditions in the Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, and also looking at the readiness of the provinces following warnings by the South African Weather Service. We know snowfall forecasted from today in KwaZulu-Natal, and the provincial government there once again urging motorists to reschedule or postpone their journeys in anticipation of any eventuality. A warning issued to Tshwane residents for possible water supply interruptions, and this is due to a power trip at Rand Water's Mapleton Booster Pumping Station yesterday. Rand Water saying that the power failure has affected several reservoirs. E-tolls were officially scrapped earlier this year, and today the MEC of Finance and Economic Development, Lebogang Maile, is expected to announce a significant milestone the Gauteng Provincial Treasury has reached with regards to funding of the provincial e-toll debt. We also have reaction following the Western Cape High Court ruling to bar the MK parliamentary leader, Dr. John Hlophe, from serving on the Judicial Service Commission. Kusatu saying that the Western Cape High Court ruling is an exercise of common sense, and Judges Matter also commenting on the issue. In court, an alleged serial rapist and murderer is expected to appear before the Molopo Magistrates Court today, and in Christiana, a 40-year-old man arrested for the alleged murder of his former girlfriend's boyfriend will also be appearing in the local magistrates court there. Just some of the stories that we will be zooming in on this morning.
All right, thank you for that. And Musa will have your news headlines and updates throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief. You can catch her at about 6:30 with the latest headlines.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So you'll have heard in the updates from Rob Byrne there the concerns about the weather, and we do have quite a number of warnings. And once again, I do propose to highlight the warnings, but it does mean that I will have to truncate some of the weather details that I then give you. But the warnings are important. So let's make sure that we go through them as detailed as we can. So let's start. We start with an orange level 5 warning. It says that disruptive snowfall leading to some communities temporarily inaccessible, as well as closure of mountain passes, is expected over the Witzenberg and Breede Valley municipalities in the Western Cape. The orange level 5 warning says damaging winds and waves resulting to a risk of medium to large vessels dragging anchors and breaking mooring lines are expected between Cape Agulhas and Plettenberg Bay. The third one, yellow level 4 warning. Damaging winds and waves leading to difficulty in navigation at sea are expected between Cape Columbine and Cape Agulhas. Then you have a yellow level 4 warning. Damaging winds and waves resulting in medium vessels at risk of capsizing or taking on water, dragging anchors or breaking mooring lines, and damage to cargo impacting the marine section are expected between Plettenberg Bay and Kaimouth. The other warning is that yellow level 4 warning, disruptive snowfall leading to loss of livestock and crops, as well as closure of mountain passes, is expected over the southern high ground of Namakwa district in the Northern Cape, the Cape Winelands, Little and Central Karoo in the Western Cape, and the Ubuntu local municipality of the Northern Cape. The sixth warning, yellow level 1 warning, disruptive rainfall resulting in localized flooding of susceptible formal and informal settlements or roads, low-lying areas and bridges, major roads affected but can be used, increased travel times, difficult driving conditions on dirt roads, as well as minor motor vehicle accidents due to slippery roads and reduced visibility, is expected along the coast of KwaZulu-Natal and the adjacent interior. Yellow level 1 warning, disruptive snowfall resulting in isolated loss of vulnerable livestock and crops, as well as traffic disruptions, is expected over the high-lying interior of the Eastern Cape. And lastly, the yellow level 1 warning, damaging winds resulting in localized damage to settlements and difficult driving conditions are expected over Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, Sunday's River Valley, Kucha, and Dlambe local municipalities in the Eastern Cape. We then have a fire danger warning, which says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected in places in the Northwest Province. Let me give you the rest of your temperatures then. Pretoria, 11 to 23. Johannesburg, 6 to 20. Mbombela, 17 to 20. Polokwane, 18 to 29. Mahikeng, 5 to 21. Bloemfontein will be 4 to 13. Kimberley, 3 to 15. Cape Town is 9 to 13. George, 8 to 13, Gqeberha, 8 to 18, East London, 9 to 20, Durban, 12 to 17, Pietermaritzburg, 6 to 12. And that is your weather for this morning.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Win your share of 50,000 Rand when you play Winning at Live with One Life. Don't forget to enter on our website, safm.co.za. Stay tuned to the morning brief on SAFM. Keep your phone on loud and we might be the one to change your life. One Life is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life, changing lives.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain. But paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali, the lioness, and Bakari, the baboon, may seem safe in their rock fortresses. But with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny. And down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti, Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So for that, then, let's focus on this story. The Russian President Vladimir Putin last week warned that the country was changing its rules towards nuclear weapons, effectively lowering the threshold at which it might use them. Putin has said Russia would revise its doctrine to potentially lower the bar for the use of nuclear weapons, adding that Moscow would regard an attack by a non-nuclear state that involved or was supported by a nuclear state as a, quote, joint attack against the Russian Federation, end quote. Meanwhile, Republican presidential candidate in the United States, Donald Trump, expressed a commitment to work with both Ukraine and Russia to resolve their ongoing conflict during a meeting with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York last week. For more on this, then, let's bring into the conversation Roland Henwood, a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. We bring up this story and highlight it, Roland, because there is a sense that we have entered precarious times, have we not? This nuclear doctrine was revised in the early stages of the conflict, but now it's in a different context of the Western support to Ukraine, is it not?
Good morning, Simelane. Thulasizwe. Yes, it is a change, but it's also not a change. And I think that's the crux of the issue. What we see is actually discussion opened, some announcement on a revised approach to how nuclear weapons may be used and changed language. But the essence of what is said is actually the same. And I think that was designed to be communicated and received in this way to create a sense of doubt, especially on the side of the US. The US has to decide, for instance, is it going to allow Ukraine to use some of its weapon system for what is called deep strikes into Russia? And it is hesitant to allow that. It has blocked it so far. And the reason is the fear of escalation. What President Putin is doing here, and he has done this twice already in the course of this conflict, is to focus on his ability and his willingness to use tactical nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
In other words, nuclear weapons on the battlefield, not in the global context, to support Russia and Russian forces against the enemy, which is NATO and Ukraine. But nothing concrete. In essence, it's a little bit of rephrasing. It doesn't indicate a willingness, it indicates another threat. And the interpretation given is that it signals a red line for Russia, but it's another red line. There has been so many, and every time things change, Russia basically comes back with not action, but new words. And that makes it difficult to interpret how serious is Putin.
Sure.
And I think the important change is that it gives Putin the sole discretionary decision-making power in the way in which this is formulated. And that introduces a sense of uncertainty, and probably which is what he wants at this stage.
So it's a bit of finger wagging, is it not? That basically, in the context of that debate about whether or not to allow Western allies should allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles that can strike deep into Russia, and also in the context of the incursions by Ukraine into Russian territory recently, just a reminder and a bit of finger wagging by Putin.
Well, it is that, but it is also a sense of the problems that Russia is facing, and also probably a sense of the difficulty that Russia is facing in this conflict. It is going on 3 years. The quick victory that was supposedly going to happen did not materialize. The war is a huge drain on the Russian military, and in terms of what is happening, probably also on the economy. And this shows that Russia is in trouble, and it needs to back up its actions with something much more substantial than what is happening on the battlefield. Diplomatically, it's not been a good time for Russia.
Yeah.
They're not achieving what they want. So this is the next step. But I think what one must understand here, this is probably a desperate final step. The moment you use a nuclear weapon, there is no other option. And I think that is what mitigates against looking at this from the simple perspective of, if you do this, we're going to do that. The moment you take this step, there's nothing else. This is the last thing you can do. And that is why probably most people don't take it that seriously.
Sure. I want to focus a little bit before we end our conversation on the impact of the United States upcoming election. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, meeting with Donald Trump, and Trump has said that he would have this conflict sorted out before he even takes office officially if he were to be elected. Much of what he says, though, is based on his belief that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, respected him when he was president and he would never have attacked Ukraine. Other than that, is there enough of a strategy there for us to even analyze and understand if Trump were to win the White House in November?
Well, I don't see any strategy. What I see is what we know of Trump as president, and that is a transactional approach. In other words, I will strike a deal, and the two presidents will accept it.
The deal maker.
And that is especially, I think, threatening to Mr. Zelensky in that he's going to be forced to accept a deal that is also acceptable to Mr. Putin. At this stage, that would imply at least sacrificing substantial part of Ukraine to Russia. That is not acceptable to Mr. Zelensky and the Ukrainians at this stage, but that seems to be the underlying approach of Mr. Trump. When asked for details, he said it's too early, he's not going to give any details. But that's what we know of him in the past, is this transactional approach.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights on a Monday morning. That is Roland Henwood, who is a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. And that brings the time to 6:30. Time now for us to check in with N. Musa with the latest headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Trade Federation COSATU says the Western Cape High Court ruling to temporarily bar MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is an exercise of common sense. The Democratic Nursing Organisation in Gauteng has condemned austerity measures imposed by the National Treasury over a year ago, freezing the hiring of new employees. It, however, excludes offers of employment that have already gone out and the hiring of critical employees if motivations are submitted by the heads of department. And U.S. officials say at least 91 people are now known to have died across several U.S. states following high winds and torrential rain. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy delays coming in from Lenasia, Protea Glen and bottom of Eldorado Park this morning. It's a crash on the N12, Joburg bound, so it's N12 eastbound, just where you come through the N12 onto the N1. They call it Dead Men's Bend. You'd notice that if you reside in that area. So very heavy, big backlogs down to Lenasia and a whole pile of traffic coming off that N12 onto the Golden Highway and jamming that through to Devlin. So if you're back around Protea Glen, back around the Lenasia area, either reroute alternatively through Soweto or take a sort of divert Nirvana Drive across to Aikenoff and Kibble Park and go in that way. Just avoid the N12. It is a quite massive backlog of traffic this morning. Coming into Pretoria, Esky and Pathlele, a little bit of extra volume. You can see that just coming into Marubista, looking busy. Durban, a breakdown before Spaghetti Junction on the N2 South. That's in the roadwork, so that's starting to slow up. And there's a breakdown before Gateway on the N2 North in the roadwork, so just watch some delays there. Cape Town, same as Durban, some wet weather conditions hanging into Monday morning from the weekend. Conditions wet and slippery. Take it nice and easy. There's also a collision driving into Cape Town on the N1 before Plattekloof Road, so Plattekloof Hill area, and that's pushing busy Monday volumes back in towards Brackenfell territory. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Well, hello.
Hi, welcome.
You can imagine the pleasant surprise. Good morning to me.
How are you?
I'm very well, very well. So I see that there was a bit of controversy over the weekend. Chiefs playing Sundowns, and suddenly we're all talking VAR. Something that, I don't know, I didn't think it's not even supposed to be a debate in 2024.
Listen, they've been saying that VAR is going to come. I do know that the PSL says it's a lot of money. However, they did say it's coming. And yes, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that it's very surprising that a big country like South Africa still calling for VAR.
I agree.
Obviously, after the game on Saturday. And he believes that Sundown's second goal was definitely offside. But hey, the referee's call is the final call.
Here we are.
All right, let's get straight into what's happening in the world of sport. Starting off with football, Orlando Pirates remain unbeaten in the Betway Premiership as they beat Richards Bay 1-0 yesterday to claim a third straight win. A goal from Kabelo Dlamini gave the Buccaneers a sixth successive win in all competitions, and they're now second on the log, level on points with Mamelodi Sundowns. In other results, Chippa United returned to winning ways in a hard-fought 2-1 win over TS Galaxy. Polokwane City and Stellenbosch FC played out to a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that they're on a lookout for a high-quality striker to beef up the club's attacking force. This comes after the Glamour Boys lost 2-1 to Mamelodi Sundowns this weekend, and Nabi believes that there were elements of his side's play which took away from what he's trying to build with the team.
And I don't change. I don't change because I am in first step in the strategy. I'm first step, guys. It's not. Is not. You don't think I'm happy for today? I'm not happy really. I'm not happy because I dislike losing, and maybe the performance is better like last season, but this is Kaiser Chiefs. You don't accept the lose because you play say good second half. What that? It's unacceptable. If you want seriously, you know what's Kaiser Chief. If you don't know, sorry, you don't have your place here.
Well, there you have it. Let's move on to other football news internationally. More pressure on Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag after the Red Devils lost 3-0 to Tottenham Hotspur. Goals by Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski and Dominique Solanke saw Tottenham stretch their unbeaten run in all competitions to 4 games. Now Manchester United are rooted in the bottom half, and for ten Hag, fresh questions about what is he exactly building in the team. Moving on to cricket, Ireland beat South Africa by 10 runs in their second T20. Mark Adair took 4 for 31 as Ireland restricted the Proteas to 185 for 9 in the allotted 20 overs. Earlier, Ross Adair blasted 100 runs off 58 balls as the Irish posted 195 for 6 in their innings. And finally, in golf, Team USA won their 10th consecutive President's Cup title and a record-extending 13th overall after beating the international team 18.5 to 11.5 at the Royal Montreal Golf Club. South Africa's Christian Bezuidenhout was one of 3 players from the international team to win their singles match on the 4th and final day. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's bring in Dauleng Lechelan. Dauleng, good morning. I hope you had a good weekend.
Morning, Thulas. It was a fantastic weekend. I hope you also had a good one.
Yeah, I did. So listen, I see that being everyone's favorite tutor and assistant in writing of essays and papers for submission, academic papers, is not necessarily proving to be profitable for OpenAI, who own ChatGPT.
Yes. So this is not really coming as a surprise to us, as tech companies usually struggle to turn a profit in the first few years. So this is usually due to issues around scale, as they have to grow fast, and then there's not enough investment for them to grow fast. Now, ChatGPT owner OpenAI seems to be facing the same problem. The group is expected to post a $5 billion loss. And zooming in on those financials, its revenue is expected to surge, though, going to increase by $3.7 billion. And looking at that top line, OpenAI says it's been benefiting from its subscription services, subscriptions to its tools and licensing its language models, which power many AI applications. It's however warned that running these models requires a lot of investment in computer hardware. And this update comes alongside news on its latest funding round. The Microsoft-backed firm said Thrive Capital is leading when it comes to investments. It's injected $1 billion into the business so far. OpenAI's board is also considering restructuring the company to make it more attractive to investors. So it seems like there's a lot of changes taking place there.
Yeah, and listen, lest we be accused of endorsing intellectual dishonesty, we absolutely do not. But we're just making that quip based on people do use OpenAI for such purposes. You and I watch the oil price quite closely for various reasons. And I see that the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, expects demand to increase.
Mm-hmm. And this comes despite the global move to dump fossil fuels and embrace greener alternatives to us. According to the body's Secretary General, there is no peak demand on the horizon for oil, and this contradicts predictions of declining oil demand. We've seen what the oil price has been doing this year and how OPEC has stopped releasing more oil into the economy, into the world. Now, OPEC's World Oil Outlook states global oil demand is expected to increase from 102.2 million barrels per day in 2024 to 120.1 million barrels per day in 2050, with of even higher demand. This growth will be driven by India, Asia, and the Middle East, as well as Africa, which are expected to account for an additional 22 million barrels per day by 2050. Now, OPEC's forecast is very different from the International Energy Agency, which predicts oil demand will peak before 2030 and remain below 1 million barrels per day in the near future, due to China's economic slowdown. Now, OPEC's bullish outlook has sparked debate, with some analysts arguing that it undermines global energy security by discouraging investment in oil and gas production. Back to that outlook, now to meet the projected demand, OPEC estimates the industry will require $17.4 trillion in investments by 2050.
All right, just give us a sense then and a recap of Asian markets, the US, as well as how the JSE closed on Friday.
So recapping on last week's close, US ending mixed, mostly in the red. The Dow Jones, the only index in the green, climbing to a fresh record on Friday as traders digested new data that pointed to further progress in lowering inflation. Shifting focus to local markets, a similar finish here at home, with markets mixed. The all share closing up 0.3%. The rand is still powering through to us. Nothing seems to be stopping the local currency, edging closer to the 17 rand mark to the dollar. It's sitting at 17.09 to the greenback right now. Zooming in on today's trade, it's the last day of trade for the third quarter, and trade quite choppy in Asia. Stocks being boosted by strong gains in China and Hong Kong, but this has been partially offset by steep losses in Japan.
All right, thank you for that. Ntauleng Lechela, the first of 3 of her updates. You can catch her in the second hour, where she'll be giving you more updates on everything to do with the economy, business, as well as the markets here at home and globally.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Attention all caregivers of children. Are you and your children's vaccinations up to date? Vaccinations can prevent serious diseases and prevent hospital stays. Protect your little ones by getting them vaccinated. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your healthcare provider today about getting your child vaccinated against serious childhood diseases. Because health matters. This message is brought to you by Sanofi and the National Department of Health.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a few of your calls just before we get to the next story. Let's talk to, is it Vili or Willie? Willie in Kuma. You want to talk to me about killings. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dr. Man. You feel that I've been listening to you, how devastated and frustrated and angry you are in regard to the killings. You know what is that? The very same presenters of SAFM, they'll cry false about the killings, and then they'll ask us to call it out, and we would call and suggest, but our suggestions are just falling on an arid soil. You see, I wish the president was there on your platform, and the commissioner of the police, and the justice minister, because enough is enough with that. So how we have been talking about follow, and then the deterrent measures shortly, 0 deterrent measures. Parole also is the point. The constitution also is twisted in as far as the criminal justice concerns. Criminal situation is also twisted in as far as the deterrent measures are concerned.
Yeah.
So then, when a person coming from Zimbabwe, for instance, coming on correctional service in a prison, saying, hey, this prison here is nice. Hey, look, West TV is very nice. Last month, he was just not saying that. And you know, there's a lot of leisure in the prison.
Really?
The deterrent measures are not there.
I hear you. I hear you, Willie. Unfortunately, Willie, I don't have the best of lines to you, but I think we got the gist of what you had to say there about the issue of killings going on in this country. And it's the same topic that you want to talk to me about. Pastor Easy out in Ermelo. Good morning to you.
Morning, Thulasizwe.
Good morning.
Yeah, we hear how you feel this morning, and I share the very same sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
It is, let me just say, condolences to the families who lost their loved ones. This shows that definitely black life is very cheap in South Africa.
Yeah.
And this whole thing started in Parliament. You see, those people in Parliament, they pass laws because they've got security, they've got bodyguards. Then they told the police that they must not shoot and kill the criminals. They told the police that if you shoot somebody, then you will be arrested. Then the police are now folding hands. They say, what is the use? If I go out there, kill somebody, then I get persecuted. So I think the Parliament must carry all the blame. The Parliament should go back and review how police should conduct themselves in the communities. They should go back and say police must use maximum force to deal with the crime in South Africa.
Sure, I hear you.
I think that will solve this whole problem. And the other thing that will solve this problem is to have Ntantam Khwanazi as the national commissioner.
All right.
Because the gentleman knows he has got the passion to solve crime. Look what is happening in KZN.
Yeah.
And if what is happening in KZN can happen in all the provinces in South Africa, then crime will be zero.
I hear you, Pastor Easy. Thank you for that input. And I understand where it's coming from, the need to respond with force where force is required. But I would suggest to you that a lot more actually needs to be done, including prevention, right? Police visibility, those basic issues. These communities in rural areas should not have to travel 10-15 kilometers to get to the nearest police station. Police visibility is just one of those, detective services and the likes. Moses in Bramley, you also want to talk to me about the issue of crime in South Africa. Good morning to you.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. We are in big problem in this country, Thulasizwe. I definitely share the sentiment in your intro. This country, it's a gamba. It's a guara state. We are leaderless. Where leaders are not visible, where leaders are not taking care of citizenry, this is what happens. These guys, they are having bodyguards in their homes. They travel with cars, with 7 cars that is protecting them on the freeway with blue lights. They are no longer with us. As South African, we are on our own in this country. We are just, I don't know. But the thing is, how can you expect police who are community themselves? Because some of these guys, I don't know as to whether they go to police for money or whatever. I call them chocho collectors. They are no longer policing us. They are chocho collectors. You go everywhere, and they are no longer hiding it.
Yeah.
The way in which this country it has just become, I don't know what type of a country. You know, sometimes we consider the regime that things were normal in this country. We could have police who are taking care of their job and do what is necessary.
Yeah.
Now we've got police who are running around. You know, they can tell you that we can only show up when somebody is dead. What type of police? It's from when you interview them. It's not from us. They said, we are I mean,
Right.
it's maybe the haste. People can commit a haste in front of the police station.
All right, Moses, thank you. I've heard you. Thank you for that input. Let's speak to Sledge, who is out in Tshwane. And Sledge, good morning to you. You also want to talk about killings in this country.
Morning, Mr. Simelane.
Good morning.
Yes, first of all, condolences to the families in Lusiki with what has happened. I really feel for them, honestly speaking. When I heard of that, my tongue became just numb.
Yeah.
Because it's something sometimes I've never heard of. However, I must agree with one of your speakers who was talking about the parliament, that they must relook at the police practice and all that. I really agree with him. Thulasizwe, let me make an example. You know, a child, when a child is playing and he or she gets burnt by fire, he'll never go back there. Same applies as criminals. These criminals should have been any consequences against them. They wouldn't be doing things like that. This is really very, very bad, very bad posture of our country as well. Because if there was strict measures or severe convictions of these kinds of actions, these criminals wouldn't be going back to do the very same or even worse. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear
because
you,
they're still going to get away with it.
Yeah.
That's why they keep, like you said in your introduction, it is not the first incident. I can tell you, it is not going to be the last one. The government is watching and listening. It is not going to be the last one, and it's very sad.
I wish you were wrong, Sledge, when you say that, when you say it won't be the last one. But sadly, experience does tell us that we are likely to see more incidents such as these ones. That's Sledge out in Tshwane. I've got to thank you for your time and your inputs this morning. Those are some of your calls. We will continue to take them throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, very heavy delays into Joburg this morning from Protea Glen and Lenasia. It is certainly a route to avoid. It's the N12 eastbound, a big crash as you come off that N12 to Joburg and turn onto the N1 at what they call Dead Men's Bend. So very heavy backlogging through Golden Highway and back towards sort of Klipsrate Valley Road, the Soweto Lenasia exit. So just avoid that. If you're already in the queue, what's happening? A lot of traffic's coming off at Golden Highway and jamming that very heavily up through Eldos and Devland area. Also the N1 as you arrive into that scene from Crossmere Plaza, quite a big queue as well. So just stay off the, particularly the N12 coming in from Lenasia, Soweto this morning. Either reroute through Soweto or reroute down around Nirvana Drive out to Aiken off your alternative routes. The N1 through Midrand, pretty busy. We are looking at increasing volumes back to school this week. So we're sitting already from Brockfontein down to New Road. That is much busier than it's been. And the Roger Dyson out of the Pretoria Industrial area, quite slow moving around towards the R101. Durban, wet weather conditions, so take it easy, please. There is a crash involving a truck N2 South at Queen Nundy Drive. Just watch for some traffic backlogging into that. The N2 North is pretty heavily backed up through the rain from the M7 up through to the roadworks at Westwood Mall. And Cape Town also, the rain continues this morning after a very wet weekend. Everything's a bit busy, particularly Marine Drive. We saw this Friday afternoon. It was queuing coming in out of Tableview, very unusual to Racecourse Road, and it's queuing quite heavily this morning. I think it could well be a timing issue at the traffic lights there by the paddock. So Marine Drive's heavy. Also crash on the M1 inbound at the bottom of Plattercliff Hill. So that's a delay coming through from Belleville and Brackenfell. But everything around Cape Town pretty busy this morning. Certainly noticeably busier than it was last week. Give yourself time to get through the wet weather conditions and to get through the traffic safely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Mzansi, what has become of our country? Gender-based violence is eating our moral fabric, and we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye. This violence affects us all, occurring in various forms including femicide, which is the intentional killing of a woman because of her gender. It takes place anywhere, anytime, even in our own safe spaces at home. Working together with social partners through the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, the government aims to create a GBVF-free South Africa. As we acknowledge the gains from our 30 years of freedom and democracy, let us also work together to break the cycle of GBVF on our home ground. Call the 24-hour GBVF Command Center number on 0800 428 428 or text *120*7867#. A message from the GCIS.
Africa from Within follows the journey of our anchor presenters who travel to various locations in order to delve into the inner workings and untold stories of the unsung heroes. At its core, Africa from Within is all about grassroots storytelling and the showcasing of the conservation contributions of ordinary people to Africa. It aims to engage and entertain viewers, educate and promote conservation, and inspire viewers to value our natural heritage. Don't miss Africa from Within on SABC2 every Friday at 7 p.m.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Let's bring you this story now. The Democratic Nursing Organization of South Africa, DINOSA, has condemned austerity measures imposed by National Treasury over a year ago, which it says have led to understaffing and staff burnout in Gauteng healthcare facilities. The organization held a media briefing yesterday on the state of the province's hospitals. It used the briefing to condemn the conduct of some medical doctors and to request for the power to be given to hospitals to appoint and dismiss staff. For more than, I'm joined by Bongani Mazibuko, who is DINOSA Gauteng Provincial Secretary. Good morning to you, Bongani. I've got to thank you for your time. Let's start with the impact of the austerity measures. You are saying that you are seeing them manifest at the point of health service delivery. How so?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. With the austerity measures, we're seeing that because there's frozen posts in the department, the different hospitals, particularly your clinical posts. If a person retires or resigns, then those people are not immediately replaced. And if the person is not immediately replaced within a month or two, then they lose that particular post. As a result, there's already a shortage of nurses and other healthcare workers in the system. Now, with these austerity measures, it has gone to a much more dire stage now, in that you've got a much more higher shortage, and that impacts directly on service delivery. Because if you've got 10 nurses that we're seeing 100 patients, now you've got 8 nurses who are expected to see 100 patients or more still. So that puts a strain on the ones who are currently already there, which would lead to directly burnout and affecting the patients and the citizens of the province.
Wow. So the other aspect you were addressing in your media briefing had to do with the conduct and attitude of healthcare providers. Just give me your analysis of where the breakdown is. We've focused a bit recently on the bad attitude and ill treatment of patients by some doctors and nurses. What is your understanding of what leads to that behavior?
I think it could be the frustration of having to deal with issues of shortage of resources and these shortages of staff as well. And another thing as well is that most of the time we have made particular professions the face of healthcare. That would be nurses and doctors in particular. So as a result, when patients are experiencing bad service or bad interactions at the facilities, the focus is always on doctors and nurses. But and then you look at the departments I serve with the SMILE campaign, for instance. Most of the people think that nurses are the ones and doctors are the ones who are supposed to serve with the SMILE. But this should be from everybody, from the cleaner, the clerk who gives the patient the file, the pharmacist who's going to give the patient medication. So those are some of the things that the department needs to make sure that it corrects. Make sure that they implement that I serve with the SMILE campaign across the board for everybody. And secondly, make sure that the resources are available for the employees to be able to do their job. We have proposed to the department what we call a positive practice environment. We're still supposed to have a follow-up meeting on that, whereby they need to create a positive practice, a positive environment for the employees to be able to do their job. That includes issues like security should be taken care of. We don't want any employees to be attacked while on duty. They should feel safe in order for them to be able to do their jobs.
Right.
And we don't want any.
All right, Bongani, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Bongani Mazibuko there. He's Dinosa Gauteng Provincial Secretary, talking to me about some of the issues that they've been monitoring as a union, particularly the impact of austerity measures and budget cuts on provincial health departments and their systems, particularly in the province of Gauteng. And that brings us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa now for the latest news.
In our top stories, COSATU commends court ruling on Hlophe's JSC role and Hurricane Helene death toll rises in the U.S. Good morning. Trade Federation COSATU says the Western Cape High Court ruling to temporarily bar MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is an exercise of common sense. On Friday, the court granted an urgent interdict in favor of the DA to stop their designation of Hlophe to serve on the JSC. The party challenged his designation to the JSC, saying Parliament had not taken a rational decision when designating him after he was impeached due to charges of gross misconduct. The next round of interviews will be held during the second week of next month. COSATU's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks says this ruling gives a chance for common sense to prevail.
I hope Parliament will seize the opportunity to address the constitutional gaps which exist and also the gaps within its code of conduct as well. But I also hope political parties will also reflect and stop imposing delinquents in Parliament. Society has the right to expect better, and society is frankly exhausted by the constant shenanigans, and often what we see are little better than hoodlums running amok at Parliament. We hope this High Court ruling will inject some sense.
2 people have been killed in a crash involving a bus and a bakkie in the Durban CBD last night. 20 people from the bus were injured and treated on the scene. ALS paramedic spokesperson Gareth Jameson.
Around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday evening, ALS paramedics responded to a horrific crash involving a bus and a bakkie on the corner of Stanger Street and Somsey Road in the Durban CBD. On arrival, paramedics found carnage as they found that 2 vehicles had collided in the junction before both vehicles had veered off the roadway, coming to rest on the sidewalks. Approximately 20 people from the bus who had sustained various injuries. Once stabilized on the scene, they were transported to various Durban hospitals for the further care that they required. Unfortunately, in the bakkie, a male and female, believed to be in their 30s, had sustained major injuries and there was nothing paramedics could do for them, and they were declared deceased on the scene.
The following story contains graphic details that could offend sensitive listeners, including children. A 40-year-old man arrested in Christiana in the northwest for the alleged murder of his former girlfriend's boyfriend will appear in the local magistrate's court today. Reports say the suspect went to his former girlfriend's home in Utlwanang Township when a quarrel ensued. The suspect stabbed the victim to death and dragged the body into bushes. Police spokesperson Amanda Funani says the suspect chopped the victim's legs and private parts, which he threw into a river.
The ex-girlfriend reported a missing person to the police, who followed up after getting information that the suspect was seen pushing a wheelbarrow towards the river. As a result, police divers were summoned to search for the victim, and his upper body and a leg were retrieved from the river on Thursday. A search continued on Friday, 27 September 2024, and the parts that included a leg and the other parts were recovered.
The National Sea Rescue Institute, NSRI, and various rescue agencies are urging the public to be safety conscious on the last day of the school vacation due to cold fronts and strong rip currents. NSRI spokesperson Craig Lambinon says snow and rain may pose dangers to inland waterways, rivers, lakes and dams. Lambinon says all rescue agency teams are on high alert.
Cold fronts forecast by the South African Weather Services have brought rough seas to our coastline. That, coupled with the new moon spring tide, we are expecting rip currents to be stronger than normal today and sea conditions to be perilous in places. We are appealing to bathers, coastal hikers, beach strollers, paddlers, boaters, sailors to be extra cautious. NSRI, lifeguards, police, law enforcement, traffic services, the emergency medical services and fire and rescue services are all on high alert, but we are hopeful that you adhere to all safety measures.
The Democratic Nursing Organisation, Denosa in Gauteng, has condemned austerity measures imposed by National Treasury over a year ago, freezing the hiring of new employees. It, however, excludes offers of employment that have already gone out and the hiring of critical employees if motivations are submitted by the heads of department. Denosa Gauteng Chairperson Simpiwe Gada has called on National Treasury as well as the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi to give hospital officials powers to appoint and dismiss staff.
Since the last year, we have seen austerity measures that have been imposed, especially on support staff posts, such as your cleaners, clerks, and all that, especially in Gauteng Health, and this is affecting service delivery. We want to call on National Treasury. We also want to call on the Premier to decentralize and give back the hospitals as well as departments its powers in terms of appointing.
Further afield, and finally, U.S. officials say at least 91 people are now known to have died across several U.S. states following high winds and torrential rain caused by Storm Helene. North Carolina alone reported more than 30 deaths. The storm has left a swathe of damage across several southeast states. Christian Benavitz from the BBC's American news partner CBS News has more details.
Communities around Asheville and in that part of North Carolina are essentially underwater. There have been certain neighborhoods, certain cities, smaller cities that have been practically cut off. And at this point, they are bringing in supplies by air.
Recapping the top story, Trade Federation Kusatu says the Western Cape High Court ruling to temporarily bar MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is an exercise of common sense. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Super heavy coming along the N12, the Potchefstroom Highway to Joburg. It's a crash at the N1 highway ramp. So big queues back through Golden Highway, back towards Klipsray Valley Road. Big traffic as well, jamming the Golden Highway from the N12 on the alternative route to avoid that up towards Devlin. So Eldorado Park to Devlin on Golden Highway is heavy. And the N1 arriving in from Crossmere, backing up into the N12 Potch Highway as well. So you just want to avoid that where possible. There is a really significant backlog. The R21 starting to queue this morning between the Bapsfontein and Benoni exits. The R21 changeable roadworks have moved now just down closer towards that Benoni exit. It's likely to be queuing all day today. Durban through the rain, so take it easy. A lot of bumps and shunts that we're seeing. A real inconvenience if you're not paying full attention to the conditions. Also a stationary vehicle in that N2 North queue before Spaghetti Junction, and that's starting to push things back quite heavily towards Cement Factory territory. Cape Town Marine Drive, again heavy from Tableview through to Racecourse Road at the paddocks. We think there's an issue with the timing of the traffic lights there perhaps, and there's a breakdown on the M5 North at the N2. That's why you're so slow coming through from Ottery. The wet weather in Cape Town also causing one or two crash casualties. So again, just take it easy and give yourself time to get through safely. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Coming up in your sports this hour, the Boks determined to continue with winning ways, and Proteas women fall to New Zealand in T20 World Cup warm-up. More details at 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Monday, the 30th of September 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Now, if you missed my introduction in the first hour, I have said that there is nothing good about this morning and we need to pause and reflect. I don't propose to repeat everything I said earlier on, but I have said that I am unable to be formulaic this morning in how I introduce this hour, in how I introduce this program, because I am outraged and unashamedly so. And I call on you to be outraged with me and accept nothing short of a war on crime right now, and with clear battle plans that are implemented. And that's not to call for the use of the blunt instrument of the use of deadly force in every instance. That's not what a war on crime would mean, at least not for me. It would mean it is a call for a clear plan for crime prevention, visible policing, resourcing and building of new police stations, roadblocks here and there, just crime deterrence and prevention. A campaign to retrieve guns. Is that too much to ask? A campaign to retrieve and destroy firearms from our society, heavily armed as it is, with so many guns. And some sectors of our economy are known for brandishing weapons here and there. Who's doing anything about that to retrieve those weapons? So that's why I'm not able to be formulaic in the way that I greet you this morning and do the usual things that we do, because this situation is simply not normal. And this is in the wake, of course, of the massacre in Thulasizwe in the Eastern Cape. Many of us would not have heard of this village, Ngobozana village in Thulasizwe, until this past weekend. And sadly, the first time you hear of it is 18 people mowed down through the barrel of a gun in peacetime South Africa. This should not be happening. And in the first hour, I quoted Thandiswa Mazwai and said, "Ayifanelanga uba iyenzeka lento emzini kababa." This should not be happening in peacetime South Africa. And the seventh administration, from the president down, I noticed that the presidency, I've seen no statement on this issue. I would say these people should be chasing us to speak to the nation and not the other way around. I will speak to the police spokesperson, Athlenda Mate, in this hour. And with due respect to her, I have full respect for the work that she does, her diligence and professionalism, and will engage with her because she has a crucial role to play. But I do believe that her bosses, Fanny Masemola, the President, the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, the Eastern Cape Provincial Commissioner and others should be speaking to the nation, not to Thulasizwe Simelane. I'm just a messenger in this situation. Good morning, South Africa. I'm sorry to be so outraged so early in the morning. I will be taking your calls. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchmen in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Politics now, and the Democratic Alliance has told the ANC to bring back the ousted Tshwane Mayor Thulasizwe Brink or risk stability in other hung metros ahead of the 2026 municipal elections. The DA's Federal Council chairperson Helen Zille reportedly made the demand in a letter to ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula and the party's lead coalition negotiator David Makhura. Zille says Brink was ousted last Thursday because the provincial and local ANC had, quote-unquote, defied its national leadership. For more on this, I'm joined by the leader of the DA, Helen Zille, joins me now on the line. Good morning to you, Helen, and I've got to thank you for your time. Firstly, just confirm that you have raised these issues and this demand for the reinstatement of Thulasizwe Brink in the city of Tshwane in a letter to Fikile Mbalula and David Makhura.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and to the listeners. Yes, I have raised that. That was a very important point to raise because I've got to signal very clearly to the ANC that give and take does not involve the DA giving and the ANC taking all the time. And we have to send a very clear signal and be very serious about it, that this is a mutual thing. And if we're in a coalition, they have to give as much as we do.
So as things stand at the moment, your intention is to field Thulasizwe Brink for the position of Tshwane Mayor as and when that opens up for election?
Yes, absolutely. That is exactly what we will do.
Do you believe that your message will have landed well with the ANC to the point of having its support and importantly, having them not lobby against the re-election of Thulasizwe Brink?
Well, I don't think too much about what's going on inside the ANC. I think about standing up for the DA's voters. That is the most important thing. Voters put us into the position. Voters gave us a very significant mandate in Tshwane, and we stand up for our voters in the DA.
And when you say that there's a risk of the stability being disturbed in other municipalities where there was no outright winner and a coalition arrangement is needed, what does that mean exactly?
Well, as you know, the GNU has one overriding goal, and that is to grow the economy and to create jobs. And if we're going to grow the economy and to create jobs, we have to look at the metros because the metros are the engines of South Africa's economy. And you cannot have economic growth and investment in the metros if they are unstable and if there are motions of no confidence every second month and if there is very little service delivery. So we have started tentative discussions around stabilizing Nelson Mandela Bay, eThekwini, and Ekurhuleni. Those are absolutely critical, and we have been in tentative local discussions to start resolving those problems. I've said to the ANC that unless Thulasizwe Brink is put back in Tshwane, we are not going to play nice in the other metros. Now that is essential because for this relationship to work, the ANC can't hit us around the head when they feel like it and get us to be cooperative on the other occasions that they feel like it, depending on where they have the balance of power. It doesn't work like that. And if we want to save South Africa, which is the objective of the government of national unity, then there's got to be give and take on both sides.
Would not play nice in the other municipalities, as you put it, would it involve motions of no confidence tabled by yourselves in those coalition arrangements where the ANC needs your support?
It could mean anything. It could mean that and other things, you know. I mean, the bottom line is we don't want to hold the residents of other metros to ransom, but those residents must please understand that the worst possible thing for South Africa and for them is if the DA loses its muscle with the ANC. The ANC's got to understand that the DA has muscle and that we will use it, and that they can't slap us around the head and expect nothing to happen. And the most important thing for those residents in those metros is to realize that if they want good DA governance, they can vote for it in 2 years. People cannot vote ANC and expect DA government. It doesn't work that way.
Let me ask you about your... Well, I understand you to be saying that the ANC in Gauteng has defied the national leadership of the ANC. I don't know if you saw that Panyaza Lesufi, the provincial chairperson of the ANC, immediately responded to you on X and basically said there is no such. The motion of no confidence in Thulasizwe Brink had the support of the national leadership. The president's position, as well as the voting on the Bella Act, had the support of the national leadership, and the DA's non-inclusion in the government in Gauteng also had the support of the national government, national ANC.
Well, let me tell you directly that we pulled out of those talks in Gauteng because Panyaza Lesufi was messing us around and applying an idea that the DA was kind of subordinate and had to dance to the ANC's tune. And we don't do that. We're not going to be co-opted. We want power sharing, not co-option. We don't want to have more muscle than the voters gave us, which is 22%. But the ANC only got 40% of muscle from the voters, and so they need the DA. And they cannot treat us as if we are a partner that can be co-opted. We want to share power, and they need to understand that. I have absolutely no doubt that Lesufi went against the national leadership. I have absolutely no doubt about that, and I have internal knowledge about that. But the way he did it was as follows. If we maintained the status quo in Tshwane, which is what the DA wanted, to keep Thulasizwe Brink in office, they would have to forfeit the mayoralty there. If they went with Action SA, Lesufi argued they could get the mayoralty for the ANC. And meanwhile, poor old Action SA was sitting there thinking that they were going to become the mayor, but the ANC was persuading the ANC at different spheres of government to go with Lesufi's plan, because then the ANC would get the mayoralty of Tshwane. And it'll be interesting to watch the fight develop between Action South Africa now and the ANC over the mayoralty. It'll be interesting but tragic for the residents of Tshwane, because that city was just starting to turn around.
Lastly, Helen, there's this allegation that you simply cannot shake off, and it's been with you, and it has haunted you for quite a number of years. The allegation that when you, as the DA, are in coalition arrangements, you strut your stuff as if you are the dominant partner with a degree of arrogance, and you've heard, I'm pretty sure you've heard those arguments, and it's now again been said by Action SA, and other political parties have said it before. Is there nothing for you there to pause and reflect as the DA in how you conduct yourselves as coalition partners, and that you've been accused of wanting to dictate how things will play out in coalitions?
We never want to dictate, but we want our role to be recognized and our support to be respected. We're the second biggest party in South Africa, and we stand up for principle. And far too many people interpret standing up for principle as being arrogant. There's nothing arrogant about standing up for principle. There's nothing arrogant about saying we won't be beaten around. There's nothing arrogant in saying we have to have a power sharing arrangement, not a co-option arrangement. And that is a reality that has to still dawn with many people in the ANC. Let me also say that I ran one of the first coalitions in South Africa in 2006 in the city of Cape Town. There were 7 parties in the coalition, and it lasted for 5 years. And we had a lot of mutual respect for each other, and we all understood the rules of the game, and everybody played accordingly.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Helen Zille. She's the DA Federal Council chairperson, talking to me about their demand for the re-election with the support of the ANC of the Tshwane mayor, the ousted Tshwane mayor, Thulasizwe Brink.
You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
To the story now, police in the Eastern Cape have confirmed that an 18th victim has passed away in hospital after 2 mass shootings in Thulasizwe at the weekend. The shootings happened in 2 different homes on the same street and resulted in 17 people, including 15 women, being killed on the scene. The 18th person has, of course, died, as I've just told you. Police say they are investigating the motive for the shootings. Let's speak now to the police spokesperson, Athlenda Mate, the National Police spokesperson. Athlenda, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. Do you have an update for us by way of the investigations to try and apprehend those involved in the shootings that happened on Saturday?
Well, a very good morning to you and to your listeners. I can confirm that our members have collected all evidence from the scene. They have interviewed key witnesses and community members. They remain hard at work in analyzing all available information, and they are following up all leads. We are confident that we will effect the necessary arrest soon. We are not rushing our detectives and our forensic teams that have been on the ground since this incident happened. We have full faith and confidence that they will conduct a thorough investigation. So we are not putting undue pressure on them. We do not want mistakes. We are avoiding unlawful arrest. So we are giving our team the necessary space to conduct a thorough investigation. So that's the latest update insofar as this investigation is concerned.
What is the protocol at play here, Athlenda? Because I know that you guys sometimes have what you call a 72-hour plan. Do you have that in place, and what does it entail in terms of ensuring that this crime, this horrendous crime, is solved as soon as possible?
Well, the first 72 hours of any crime scene is the most crucial, because that is where we collect all crucial evidence that can lead us to who these perpetrators are. So we are still on track. We are, like I've indicated, following up all leads. And in terms of investigation and interviews of key witnesses and community members that have been concluded, but we will continue if any new information. But we are expecting the Minister, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, as well as the Deputy Ministers and the National Commissioner to descend on Thulasizwe late this afternoon, where tomorrow morning they will start with a visit to the families, affected families. They will engage the community, but most importantly, they will meet with the teams that have been on the ground since Saturday to get a progress report on how far we are in tracing those that are behind this heinous attack.
Athlenda, what do we know about the motive at this point? What are the early indications of why this happened?
Well, that forms part and parcel of our investigation. So we were not at liberty to divulge such information, but just to assure the nation that we've mobilized maximum resources. We've got the specialized expertise working on this case. So we are quite confident that the teams that are on the will register a breakthrough. If you look at the history shootings and mass killings in the Eastern Cape in the last 2 years, there were 38 people killed in several mass shootings, and we have so far arrested 25 people. All those suspects accused are still in police custody. So it does give us that confidence that our police will soon crack this particular case, given their track record.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights there. That is the National Police spokesperson, Athlenda Mate, with an update on the investigation on the ground. And that's a separate matter for me, for the policy decisions, the war on crime that I believe is long overdue. And that, for me, will come at levels higher up within the establishment of government, as well as the security cluster of government. Athlenda Mate there giving us an update on the investigations.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a few of your voice notes and hear what you've had to say on some of the stories we've covered this morning.
Morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. What Helen Zille did at KZN is now hitting back on her. What goes around comes around. Mam Zodwa from Alexandra. Thank you very much.
All right, Mam Zodwa, they're talking about what Helen Zille did in KZN. I wonder what Helen Zille did in KZN there, Mam Zodwa. That is coming back to haunt her and the DA. Let's take a listen to another one.
Morning to Thulasizwe, it's Chris in Pietermaritzburg. We cannot agree with you more with your take in the morning on these killings. There needs to be a rethink and a new strategy in how we handle this, including improving accountability from the province up to the level of the station where these things happen and where they continue to be happening. We also need accountability from crime intelligence. Society needs to play a role. It can't be that these killers fell from the sky. They came from somewhere and somebody knew and still knows something about it. All of us must play a role.
Helen is delusional. There is no coalition. This is where the problem is. There is government of national unity. Secondly, they did not get a mandate from the Tswane people. They got into Tswane through a coalition.
All right, thank you for those voice notes. We will continue to take a bit more of those throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief. Just one thing I can say in response to Chris there from Pietermaritzburg. If we could bring down crime levels, and you can go back and check the crime statistics from 2010 during the Soccer World Cup, if we could do that for the people who are coming to visit us, we owe it to ourselves to do it for ourselves. And part of the strategies we used then included visible policing. You had roadblocks. You had police stationed along the main byways and highways of the country. And that is just not happening enough at the moment. At 7:30, let's check in with N. Musa for the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the South African Weather Service has issued a level 5 warning for disruptive snowfall in the Western Cape. It has urged residents and travellers to exercise caution as significant traffic disruptions are expected due to a high likelihood of snow and ice accumulation on the roads. Trade Federation COSATU says the Western Cape High Court ruling to temporarily bar MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is an exercise of common sense. And Israel has expanded its military operation in Lebanon in the past few hours, saying it struck dozens of Hezbollah's sites. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy coming in from Lenasia and Soweto, Protea Glenside this morning. It's this collision scene on the N12 at the N1, what they call Dead Men's Bend. So the N12 very heavy from Soweto up through Eldos and towards that. The N1 North arriving from Crossmere, queuing pressure there. And motorists avoiding it by jamming up the Golden Highway from that N12. Crash delay all the way through to the Devland area. So very big traffic there. Also crash now on the Mike 1 before Oxford Road. So very heavy coming through Boysons up through Crowd Interchange. We're back to school tomorrow, so we're looking at more traffic volumes this morning. Pretoria through down towards New Road. Traffic all over the place there between Linwood Road and the R21, and then from Brockfontein down to New Road. Very busy on the M1. Give yourself time to get through that. Durban, wet weather continues into this Monday. We've got a breakdown before Spaghetti Junction on the N2 North. That's pushing traffic almost back as far as the cement factory area. Also a couple of bumps and shunts on those wet and slippery roads, so do take it easy. Cape Town, also a wet start to the new week. The rain this morning continuing from a very wet weekend, so there will be a lot of puddling and surface water. Everything pretty busy around Cape Town in terms of highway congestions. The M5 from Ottery, Plumstead, all the way up to the N2. There is a breakdown on that M5 North as well. A crash on the wet N1 coming in around the Powell side, that vehicle in the Central Reservation, and Marine Drive stays heavy from Bayside down to a problematic set of traffic lights at Racecourse Road by the Paddocks. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
Hey, listen to me. I cannot sing, so I will not embarrass you. I will not subject you to it. But I have the song Queen playing by Queen in my head.
Yeah.
We are the champions.
You're the
once
champions
again.
of note.
Once again.
With exclamation marks.
Right?
Yeah, and obviously we're talking about the Springboks, and Springbok captain Siya Kolisi says that the World Champions 2024 Rugby Championship title victory has only fueled their drive for more glory and team growth. Now, the Boks clinched their first full Rugby Championship title since the competition expanded to 4 teams in 2012 with a dominant 48-7 win over Argentina in Nelspruit on Saturday.
And it was huge because the last time we're playing at home as well, and we as this group, it's the first time that we've achieved this. I think coaches won it, and now we are really honored that we could win it like that. And obviously, to say thank you to the people of South Africa for coming on, because the last time they see us, and obviously for Eben as well. Coach Raji says the occasion is not going to do it for him. It's us playing for him, so that's how big it was for him.
Well, looking ahead for the Springboks, they will kick off their November tour against Scotland at Murrayfield on the 10th of November. That is followed by a clash with England at Twickenham and a final test against Wales. Now, the Boks will aim to reclaim that number 1 spot in the global rankings, having been overtaken by Ireland after last week's defeat to Los Pumas in Argentina. Moving on to cricket, the Proteas women were defeated by 8 wickets in their first ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2024 warm-up match against New Zealand in Dubai. Despite Laura Fulvar's 33 from 37 balls, the Proteas women were bowled out for 92, and in reply, New Zealand posted 95 for 2. Now, the Proteas women will compete their World Cup preparations with a second warm-up match against India tomorrow at the ICC Academy. In tennis, Carlos Alcaraz set up a quarterfinals showdown with Karen Khacharov at the ATP 500 China Open in Beijing after brushing aside Talon Griekspoor 6-1, 6-2 in just 57 minutes. That victory was Alcaraz's 200th tour level win of his career, and he becomes the second fastest men's player on record to achieve the feat in 252 matches. In football, Cape Town City coach Eric Tinkler says that the win over SuperSport United on Saturday night was the perfect response from a deflating 3-0 loss to Stellenbosch FC. Several days before. The citizens were able to bounce back by beating Matsatsansa 1-0 in the Betway Premiership at Athlone Stadium, the venue where they were crushed by Stellies, and Tinkler admitted that there was some anxiety ahead of facing SuperSport United.
Got to be truthful. Obviously, the result against Stellies wasn't the greatest of results, which put a lot of pressure on us as a technical team, and then obviously also the players, so to try and get a response out of the players 3 days later was not going to be an easy task. But I was really, really happy at the end of the match because the players showed me what I wanted to see, which I didn't see, especially after we went 2-0 down against Stellies. It was almost like we gave up or we didn't care. But today I saw a squad that cared and showed up, and they done that under immense pressure.
On that note, is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndawling, not so long ago we were talking about VW considering a factory closure in Germany for the first time in its history. And it seems that vein of news continues with VW reducing its production forecast once again.
That's right. The troubles just don't seem to end for the German car maker. It's the second time it's cut its forecast due to decreasing demand. The German car maker now predicts an operating margin of 5.6%, down from 7% previously. This change comes as VW faces slower sales in China, as well as increased competition when it comes to electric vehicles as well. The move follows disputes, as you've mentioned, around the German plant that VW said it would close. VW CEO Oliver Bloom said the company expects the restructuring efforts to reduce costs and increase efficiency amid declining demand. But there's been so much pushback that they haven't even made progress when it comes to that plant. Global deliveries in the meantime are expected to drop to 9 million units this year. VW's namesake passenger car brand and commercial vehicles units are performing below expectations, further adding to the company's challenges. And VW is not alone in its struggles. fellow German car makers Mercedes-Benz and BMW have also issued profit warnings this month. The trio are dealing with a perfect storm of challenges, including a deepening real estate crisis in China, which has led to slower sales. The auto industry struggles have sparked concern about the future of car manufacturing in Germany. Analysts predict that further profit warnings from VW and its peers are coming through as we move forward.
Yeah, I wonder to what extent the growing competition from Asian car makers plays into that picture. You know who's not losing momentum? Momentum. I got you.
Love it. So Momentum delivering double-digit profit growth. Profit there was up 30% for its annual period. This was boosted by positive contributions from most of its units. The company's different divisions performed well, with Momentum Insure's earnings recovering. Momentum Investments posted solid life annuity profits. Metropolitan Life improved customer retention, and Momentum Corporate and Guard Risk recorded a strong underwriting performance. Now, the company also benefited from lower mortality rates and increased investment income. During the period, Momentum shrugged off the impact of adverse weather-related events during the year, with the claims ratio improving to 67% from 77% last year, reflecting the positive effects of the underwriting measures the group has implemented. Now, despite this upbeat performance, Momentum remains cautious about the economy's impact on its operations, sounding a note of concern about the subdued economic environment and its potential effects on the company's future performance. This is one of the few companies that have sounded the alarm post the implementation of the GNU, with a lot of companies quite positive about what's happening with government and how that will be reflected in the economy. But Momentum is hanging 10, quite cautious about that, saying they're waiting for the reforms to come through before actually improving their outlook. Now, the group also updated markets on two-part withdrawals. Since the implementation of the system, Momentum has received about 150,000 applications with 2.5 billion rand.
Oy. Yo, people are making the pots, making the pots to be done. Darling, lastly, do recap for us the U.S. close Asian markets as well as how we closed at the end of last week on the JSE.
It's the last day of trade for the third quarter. We had a pretty bumper third quarter with, easing cycle starting in the U.S. We also had a really big sell-off in July. So finally bringing that to a wrap and looking at how Asian markets started the day, we saw those markets trading mixed, really big differences when looking at indices there. The Japanese Nikkei is down 4.9%, while China's Shanghai index is up 6.6%. We're seeing traders digest better than expected factory production data from China. Meanwhile, concerns about Japan's new prime minister pushing for the normalization of interest rates, somewhat spooking investors there as the Bank of Japan is in a hiking cycle. Meanwhile, in the US, futures are flat. Traders there digesting last week's inflation print, which pointed to lower prices. And then here at home, the JSE closing mixed on Friday. The all share up 0.3%. And another strong start for the rand, trading at fresh highs on the back of a weaker dollar. It's at 17.06 to the greenback from about 17.08 an hour ago.
All right, thank you for that. We'll catch up with Ndauling one more time just after 8:30, and she'll be giving you an update and also a preview ahead of the opening of the JSE.
Hey, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, buying the dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3 and channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
At the South African breweries, the beers are brewed with 95% local and natural ingredients. From seed to sip, every step of the process supports a thriving agricultural sector and sustains over 250,000 livelihoods. So, next time you enjoy a cold one, remember, you're supporting local farmers. South African breweries, brewing more than just beer, brewing a future with more cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, for that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula with the usual Africa Update. Good morning to you, Raz. I hope you had a great weekend. Let's start with the story coming out of Sudan. The U.S. envoy is making the rounds in that region at the moment.
Good morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa, to the listeners. I fully agree with you, Thulas, quickly to say nothing refreshing this morning when you look at the killings and the massacre in our country. And hence you said we need to put more law enforcement on the ground, not only in Parliament 100%. By passing laws and policies. Thulas, quickly, Tom Perillo has traveled between Nairobi and Addis Ababa yesterday doing shuttle diplomacy on the crisis in Sudan. He's engaging with the AU and with IGAD, also with the Sudanese civil society and international NGO leaders, focusing on humanitarian support of Sudan. This meeting is very important because what the U.S. Special Envoy is doing to us is picking up from the UNGA 79, where many leaders pledged and committed to assist Sudan on its humanitarian crisis that is facing. So it is a U.S. foreign policy engaging in Sudan.
And just in West Africa, in Nigeria, I see that the 1st of October has been dubbed National Day for Survival. What's that about?
You know, you'll remember this is a day that they also celebrate as their Independence Day. But what's happening in the civil society tomorrow, they are saying that they will be having protests to say to government no to neoliberal policies on the IMF, restore the fuel prices. They are calling for the release of those who took the streets in August, and some journalists who were having protests against the government of Bola Tinubu. So this is a very important meeting that they are calling the National Survival Day for the people of Nigeria. Bola Tinubu, the Jagaban, is having many challenges to us when you look at the economic policies, trying to focus on the high taxes, cutting state subsidies. But what is challenging is the living conditions of majority of the people in Abuja as well as in Lagos.
So this story out of East Africa, out of Kenya, is particularly interesting. France Afrique, Francophonie. Yeah. Kenya is not part of that, Francophone Africa, as it's referred to at times. But I see that they are hosting the Africa-France Summit.
No, correctly, Thulas. They are part of the Anglophone, but they are not in the Francophone continent, as you have said, as it was known during the colonial times. What happened, William Ruto and Emmanuel Macron met in the UNGA 79, and on the sidelines, when they were signing the Paris Pact for the People and the Planet Coalition, that's where they announced that Kenya will host the Africa-France Summit in 2026. Others are saying it's the first time in the event's history that it will take place outside France. This was established in 1973, by the way, Thulasizwe Africa-France Summit. But for the first time in 2026, it will be in Nairobi, in Kenya. Kenyans are very excited when you look at how they want to play a role in the global politics and environmental issues. Hence, this summit will be in Nairobi, the land of Jomo Kenyatta.
And closer to home, in our region, Botswana goes to the elections, of course, next month, and the opposition there sounding a stern warning on the electoral authorities.
Remember that it is the same guy who was lamenting in 2019, Duma Boko from Umbrella for Democratic Change, whose also others are saying has got the support of the General Ian Khama. He went on to say that they will, he was sending a stern warning to the Electoral Commission Secretary, Siamisang Jefferson, saying that we will only accept the results if they will go well, but if they will be rigged the same way we have witnessed in 2019, then they will be engaging with the IEC. It seems that Dumabok Tulas is not certain with the IEC independence, credibility, transparency. Hence, he has already sent them a stern warning to the Electoral Commission.
And in fact, for your historical archives, you keep us in Botswana, don't you, Sipho? And you take us to 30 September 1966. What happened?
It's 58 years ago when Botswana was liberated or gained independence from colonial Britain under the leadership of Thulasizwe Simelane. So you can say today is a public holiday to us in Gaborone since it's an Independence Day, but it's campaigning period as Mokwetsi Masisi, Duma Boko and others, they are campaigning in Botswana. A very historical timeline when you think of Botswana, when it was known to be known as the Botswana land, a region by the then colonial era. But the Botswana have a great history to us. When you look at where they come from, since the time of Difatane, since the time of 1816, since the time of the first Bantu people who arrived in 200 C, what you call the first Tswana people who arrived 200 years later. So it's a very important history beyond 1966. Hence I said it's a public holiday in Gaborone today. Asante sana Thulas, that's what's leading the conversation. SAFM observing the Heritage Month.
All right, Avkura, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with the Africa update here on The Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a very urgent reminder to check conditions before you travel, particularly along the N3 route between Free State and KZN, sort of Harry Smith area, Swinburne, Van Rieman's, perhaps the Midlands. I know the N3 are on snow alert. The N3 and authorities responsible for that area are on a snow alert. There's snow in the forecast from today, tonight, and into tomorrow as well. So please, just if you are embarking on that long-distance travel, not only along the N3, but also possibly around the Coxted area through higher grounds of Eastern Cape and the Western Cape as well. Please, we'd urge you check before you travel. Routes this morning that are jamming heavily. The N12 coming in from Protea Glen and Lenasia. That crash at the N1 highway is still with us, so it's the Potch Highway onto the N1. Very heavy traffic. A lot of spillover onto the Golden Highway north through to Devlin, and spillover delays with the alternative routes like the Nirvana Drive out towards Aikenoff being very busy as well. Quite a queue coming in from Benoni through Boksburg. The N12 Joburg bound towards the R21 is very slow. The Mike 1's under pressure this morning from Boysons up to Oxford Road in Parktown. That's after an earlier collision scene there. Crash on Roger Dyson before Ford Trekker if you're coming out of the Pretoria industrial side along Roger Dyson towards the R101. That is slow. Durban, wet weather conditions and some breakdowns all over the M2. One at Spaghetti Junction going north, another in the roadworks before Gateway. So two really big queues this morning from the M7 through to Westwood Mall, then from Queen Nandi Drive through to Gateway. If you're heading up towards the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Cape Town, a crash in the Brackenfell area. It's the N1 inbound side between Brighton Road and Okavango. Vehicle overturning in the middle, so it's also having an impact with the slowing traffic on the outbound side as well. Cape Town roads are also wet, so stay vigilant, please. Indicator of that is just how slow the M5 is this morning from Ottery all the way through to Coburg. Get a change. And Marine Drive remains a problem. Big queues this Monday from Sunningdale through Bayside Mall, down through Sunset Beach on your way towards Racecourse Road in the paddocks. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. 20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Isolo, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own arm? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So this story is concerning them. Residents in various provinces are facing water scarcity. In Gauteng, Rand Water has imposed water restrictions that are expected to last until next year. In KwaZulu-Natal, the eThekwini municipality is currently facing a surge in water demand that exceeds the available supply. According to the National Department of Water and Sanitation, eThekwini municipality has reached the limit of water that can be drawn from its dams. For more on this, I'm joined by the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo. Good morning to you, Mr. Mahlobo. I've got to thank you for your time. So what is behind...
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe.
Thank you, sir. What's behind the scarcity of water that these provinces are facing at the moment?
Most of these municipalities, whether Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, there is a problem of the management function of the infrastructure, Thulasizwe. And when it comes to eThekwini, at least there is a new mayor there, Cyril Xaba. There is a lot of a good attitude that he wants to work with the communities and us. In the main, we've allowed Umgeni Utubela to abstract more water. eThekwini, Thulasizwe is losing more than 52% of the water that they get. When they are losing that 52%, in other words, you have about 48% of the water that can go to communities, which is billable. We have said that we have allowed Umgeni to abstract more water, but we have directed the Ethekwini to say, let's work with you, because President has prioritized them in terms of the presidential working group, including the water stream. They are trying to fix the leaks right now. There are teams that when there's a water burst, they are able to respond on time. It's a very, very good thing that the mayor is doing. But there's a lot of investment that is required to Thulasizwe, that we remove the old infrastructure, because if we don't remove it, the water will be actually leaking like a sieve, and it doesn't make any sense. At the very same time, they need to be able to ensure that they also speak to citizens, because the relationship between citizens and water has to change. We can't have people in those affluent areas, Thulasizwe, irrigating during the course of the day, where they are losing water, small issues around how public facilities are doing some of the things. But big water security issues, eThekwini, Hazelmere Dam is on track right now. It has been completed. The lower Umkomazi, Thulasizwe, is actually towards conclusion now. They'll have more water that is there. But it doesn't make sense when water goes on the ground, it gets lost in the network.
Right.
Therefore, the network is the biggest issue. and the issues of water use efficiency we must deal with.
Deputy Minister, I see that the Lesotho Highlands Water Project is due to undergo critical tunnel maintenance, and some are describing it as a shutdown, and that's supposed to start tomorrow. What should we know about that and its impact on the water supply, particularly on the provinces that do depend on that water system?
We have met with the Lesotho government led by His Excellency Minister Moleko and Minister Majokina was there chairing their meeting. We have agreed that we are proceeding. What is more important for Gauteng Thulasizwe, there will be no impact. Remember, Gauteng, the valve system is supplied by 17 dams. The dam in Free State, which is called Sterkfontein, is ready when the water goes to below 18%. Will pump the water out. There's also water from Mpumalanga and the Lesotho catchment will pump them up. The municipalities in Free State, a little bit challenges. What we have done before the tunnel could close, we have actually pumped water both to Free State dams. We have also pumped water from the canal. There's been releases even into the Val River system so that there is no problem. But in Free State, the source port is also in a very good condition. It will give them water around Bethlehem, but we're also doing additional boreholes. But at the very same time, the issue of relationship between people and water is going to be very important, that we should be able to use water sparingly. And if people are not coming to the part, we'll impose certain restrictions, and then we will not have such much of the problem that we can experience. But at the very same time, it will start raining.
And it's a long shutdown, Deputy Minister. So
6 months.
Yes, all the way to March 2025. But from your side, you believe you've done all the preparation for this shutdown?
Not definitely, including the management plan. From a technical point of view, there is a guarantee that water security and availability will not be much of a problem. But then there's a management question to say how to deal with the leaks, how do we deal with the issues of putting water conservation. And also communities must continuously be informed. Where are we? What are our expectations?
Right. Deputy Minister, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is David Mahlobo there, who is the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, bringing the time to 8 a.m. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, disruptive snow warning for parts of the Western Cape, and COSATU commends court ruling on Hlophe's JSC role. Good morning. The South African Weather Service has issued a level 5 warning for disruptive snowfall in the Western Cape. It has urged residents and travellers to exercise caution as significant traffic disruptions are expected due to a high likelihood of snow and ice accumulation on the roads. However, snowfall in the province and in the western parts of the Eastern Cape is expected to start clearing up tomorrow. Weather forecaster Tukelo Chilwani.
We're starting to see temperatures improving from tomorrow over the Western Cape. As the week progresses, we're starting to see them improving over the Eastern Cape and also over the KZN high-lying areas. However, in the northern part of the country, we are not mostly affected by these systems. Just a drop in temperature today, maybe tomorrow, but then from tomorrow onwards, we start seeing temperatures actually rising up over into the weekend.
A 47-year-old police officer is expected to make his first appearance before the Rustenburg Magistrates Court today for attempted murder. The police sergeant attached to the Marikana police station was arrested on Friday after he allegedly shot a 22-year-old victim in the head after accusing him of flirting with his girlfriend. Police spokesperson Adele Myberg elaborates.
He was apprehended after he allegedly shot a 22-year-old victim in the head after he flirted with his girlfriend at a tavern at the RDP section. The victim was rushed to a local hospital where he is admitted in a critical condition. A 9mm pistol was seized on the scene and the matter was referred to the Independent Police Investigative Directorate for further investigation.
2 people have been killed in a crash involving a bus and a bakkie in the Durban CBD last night. 20 people from the bus were injured and treated on the scene. ALS paramedic spokesperson Gareth Jameson.
Around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday evening, ALS paramedics responded to a horrific crash involving a bus and a bakkie on the corner of Stanger Street and Somsey Road in the Durban CBD. On arrival, paramedics found carnage as they found that 2 vehicles had collided in the junction before both vehicles had veered off the roadway, coming to rest on the sidewalks. Approximately 20 people from the bus who had sustained various injuries. Once stabilized on the scene, they were transported to various Durban hospitals for the further care that they required. Unfortunately, in the bakkie, a male and female, believed to be in their 30s, had sustained major injuries and there was nothing paramedics could do for them, and they were declared deceased on the scene.
Trade Federation COSATU says the Western Cape High Court ruling to temporarily bar MK parliamentary leader Dr. John Hlophe from serving on the Judicial Service Commission is an exercise of common sense. On Friday, the court granted an urgent interdict in favour of the DA to stop the designation of Hlophe to serve on the JSC. The next round of interviews will be held during the second week of next month. COSATU's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks says this ruling gives a chance for common sense to prevail.
I hope Parliament will seize the opportunity to address the constitutional gaps which exist and also the gaps within its code of conduct as well. But I also hope political parties will also reflect and stop imposing delinquents in Parliament. Society has the right to expect better, and society is frankly exhausted by the constant shenanigans, and often what we see are little better than hoodlums running a market Parliament. We hope this High Court ruling will inject some sense.
Judges Matter Research and Advocacy Officer Mbekizeli Benjamin says the ruling protects the rule of law.
To protect the rule of law and the credibility of the upcoming interviews, which will affect judicial independence, it is, for now, preferable for Dr. John Hlophe not to participate in the JSC proceedings. This effectively upholds the rule of law and ensures that the decision by Parliament is in line with the Constitution. That will be determined ultimately by the Constitutional Court.
And finally, Israel has expanded its military operation in Lebanon in the past few hours, saying it struck dozens of Hezbollah's sites. The Israeli military said its air force attacked rocket launchers and buildings where weapons were stored. A separate group, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, said 3 of its leaders were killed in an Israeli strike in Beirut's Kola district. Yesterday, the Israeli military carried out airstrikes on a Houthi-controlled area of Yemen. The BBC's John Donnison has more details.
Israel says it targeted one of the main ports in Yemen and it hit 2 power stations there. The images we saw from there, we saw massive explosions, the port area engulfed in fire. That is some 1,800 kilometres from Israel, so the reach of Israel's military is both long and strong, and Israel says it is responding to drone and missile attacks launched from Yemen, from Houthi groups in Yemen. The Houthis are fiercely opposed to Israel's actions in Gaza and in Lebanon.
Recapping the top story, the South African Weather Service has issued a level 5 warning for disruptive snowfall in the Western Cape. It has urged residents and travellers to exercise caution as significant traffic disruptions are expected due to a high likelihood of snow and ice accumulation on the roads. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Looking for insurance designed for older cars with Outsurance Essential, a 57-year-old woman pays only 287 rand a month for her 2009 grey Toyota Yaris T3 and gets up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car will be covered up to 1 million rand. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story this morning has been the N12 coming in from Protea Glen in Lenasia along the Potchefstroom Highway onto a crash scene at the link to the N1 North. That's all very heavily backed up on that section. Major delay alert if you're around the Crown Amalgam areas this morning. M2 starts the queue from Joe Slovo through the Crown interchange and down towards Main Reef. Main Reef in from Industrial. Amalgam is heavy. Crownwood Road, Church Street, all of those routes in that central Crown area, very heavy. Also crash on Joburg's N3 south between Modderfontein and Linksfield, so coming from Alex, that is quite a busy run. A lot of traffic between Pretoria and Joburg today, the N1 south to the R21 and then through Old Joburg Road to New Road. Both of those areas remain very busy. Durban's N2 north has been fairly extreme with 2 breakdowns in some roadwork areas. So the N2 from the M7 through a breakdown up towards Westwood Mall is heavy, and then a breakdown further up in the construction before Gateway. So that's your second really big queue that you'll pick up on your way towards Mhlanga or on your way towards the important airport flight connections. Cape Town all very slow as well. There's a breakdown at Hospital Bend, so the N2 stays busy from Langa. N1 backing up from Plattercliff Hill, and a crash out at Brackenfell just slowing traffic both sides between Okavango Road and Brighton Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Coming up in your sports this hour, we hear from Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivera on maintaining winning start to league campaign, and USA win 10th consecutive President Cup. More on this around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, South Africa. It's the Monday edition of the Morning Brief, and we've had a number of conversations that have been on the go and open over the last 2 hours. Earlier on, I shared my take. I cannot take this point any further, the point about the need for a war on crime in this country with the, attendant resources being dedicated and implementation of a clearly discernible plan by our government. I really cannot take that argument any further, but I am open to hearing from you about your own perspectives about what needs to be done to curb the crime and deal decisively with crime in this country, in light, of course, of that massacre that occurred in peacetime South Africa in Lusikisiki. 18 people dead, killed with firearms in this country. The number to dial for that, 086 000 2032. Also, voice notes on 061 410 4107. Don't confine yourself to those topics. There were other topics that we raised, including the coalition arrangements, including what's known as the Government of National Unity. And you heard there from Helen Zille and the demand from the DA that they will be fielding Celia's Brink to ensure that they want him to be re-elected as the Tshwane mayor, saying that the way that the ANC has conducted that matter jeopardizes the stability of other municipalities. So that's how we begin this hour. The third hour of the Morning Brief starts now.
Standard Bank Group, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with SOAS, will host the 4th Annual Climate Summit on 1 October. This summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in to the SAFM Facebook page and be part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition. Brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Attention all caregivers of children. Are you and your children's vaccinations up to date? Vaccinations can prevent serious diseases and prevent hospital stays. Protect your little ones by getting them vaccinated. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your healthcare provider today about getting your child vaccinated against serious childhood diseases. Because health matters. This message is brought to you by Sanofi and the National Department of Health.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, today feels like a good day to give away some money, so let's do exactly that. A life policy can change everything. Stand a chance to win your share of 50,000 Rand and bonus prizes when you get a call to play Winning at Life with One Life right here on SAFM. All you have to do is enter on safm.co.za. Increase your winnings by 2,000 Rand if you get an obligation-free One Life cover quote. One Life is a licensed life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. One Life, changing lives. All right, are you ready to win at life with One Life Insurance? Let's play. I'm joined by Susan Lesimole, who is our first player on this competition. Susan, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm very well. One Life Insurance and SAFM are giving away cash. Simply pick a box and you could walk away with your share of 50,000 Rand. Are you ready, Susan, to play Winning at Life with One Life?
I'm ready.
All right, you know what to do. Pick a box. There are 5 boxes labeled 1, L, I, F, and E. Which box do you choose?
I'm going with L.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, L.
Final answer?
Final answer is L.
All right, Susan, congratulations. You've won yourself 2,000 Rand this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, it could get even better, though, for you, Susan. Let me ask you, you've won 2,000 Rand, right? Did you get an obligation-free One Life cover quote from One Life Insurance?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, I did.
All right, that's it then. That is fantastic news. Susan, you get an extra 2,000 Rand for just opting in for an obligation-free One Life cover quote, from One Life Insurance. You've won a total of 4,000 Rand in cash, all thanks to One Life Insurance, who is changing lives today.
Thank you very much, SAFM and One Life. Thank you very much.
All right. Congratulations on your winnings there, Susan Lesimole, our first player on that competition. If you want a chance to play Winning at Life with One Life, then go to our website to enter. That's www.safm.co.za. Win your share of 50,000 Rand in cash, and you could be playing just like Susan has done. Well done to Susan. It's that easy. For your chance to win at Life with One Life Insurance, enter now.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up. S3.
Need a loan? Pay for what you need when you need it with a personal loan from Nedbank. And if you open a My Goals Plus or My Goals Premium account, you could enjoy 200 Rand cash back every month for the duration of your loan. That's 200 Rand every month to buy extra groceries or save for a rainy day. Visit nedbank.co.za and join the bank that's best for your loans. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Khumbule Khaya on SABC 1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a few of your calls at the moment. Let's speak to Mudau, who is out in Cape Town. Mudau, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about crime?
Yes, Caesar, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm not good because of this war for killing each other.
Yeah, we all are not good.
Yeah, they say give the gun a black person, they're going to kill themselves. So I'm 63 years, I've never experienced things like this before.
Yeah, there is a sense it's getting worse.
Yeah, it's getting worse because this is too much. And then I think what is to be done is to bring the death sentence. Yeah, because people, they are free. Too much, they get freedom, now they're abusing the freedom. No love, don't like each other. We hate each other and we all blacks.
Sure.
Doesn't happen in the white area. I'm sorry to say like that, like we go to the apartheid first. You never see a lot of things of this happening in the area. We like each other. We've got freedom, but we're still abusing it. We're not liking each other.
All right, Mudau, I've got to thank you for your time and your inputs. You're not alone, of course, in that call for a return of capital punishment. But, you know, my views on that, I think, are well recorded in terms of the basis on which it was scrapped in South Africa in terms of our constitution. And I do believe that it needs to be holistic, the fight against crime. Let's speak to Kaiser. Kaiser in Mpumalanga, you also want to talk to me about the issue of crime in this country. Good morning.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to our fellow listeners, I think. Thank you for a good show as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thulasizwe, my take this morning is just on crime, but specifically focusing on our police. I feel like they are trying hard, Thulasizwe. I won't say much, but based on the field that I'm working in, let me say that I'm a psychologist.
Yeah.
If you look at our police, wherever you meet them in towns, you see them carrying like maybe a 9mm or something. But if you compare to other countries nearby, like South Africa, if maybe you cross to Swaziland or Mozambique, you look at the ammunition that the police there are carrying, you do realize that these guys are serious. They mean business, you know. So I think sometimes we must give some more powers to our police because these guys are threatened. Imagine you have to face somebody who's carrying an AK maybe 47 while in a complex and you're only carrying a 9mm.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things that we need to repeal and make sure that, you know, our police are always armed with the right equipment all the time rather than, yes, I understand that we have rights to say you need to catch the person than shooting, but what the criminals do they catch us before they hurt us? No. They always shoot us, and then we have to react all the time. But if police are given more powers to, you know, deal with these things like they have done in KwaZulu-Natal, which was very good.
I hear you, Kaiser. Let's leave it there. And, you know, just on the caliber of weapon that is carried by our police officers, I suppose the whole intention was to change the image of the police in our country at the end of apartheid and have a more civilian approach than a militaristic approach. But I do take the point that you make. On the point of crime, let's take a call from Mike. Mike in Johannesburg, you also want to talk to me about the issue of crime. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Look, as much as we want to confront crime, combat crime, prevent crime, I've never heard them talking about the causes of crime and violence. It's about time that we start talking about the causes of crime by talking about the de-rationalization of the economy, establishing a state bank, expropriation of the land without compensation, nationalization of the Reserve Bank and, of course, the mines. And in conclusion, Thulasizwe, it is Miles Buru speaking here. I have to use an alias name and a different number because I have been censored since the days of Stephen Grootes there in your background by your producers. And it must come to an end because that is also causing crime right where you are.
I could tell it was you. Thank you, Miles. Thank you for that. That's Miles Budu there coming in and weighing in on issues to do with crime in the country. And I agree with you there, Miles, that the root causes of crime the root causes of crime do need to be part of the whole war on crime that I've been calling for. And as far as censure and censorship of you, Miles, no, absolutely not from our side. Do call in and we will gladly take your call here on SAFM. Let me see if I'm able to squeeze in Mboneni, who wants to talk to me about the issue of Helen Zille and the interview we had with her a bit earlier on. Mboneni, good morning to you.
A very good morning to us, and I can confess that you are definitely settled. You are in love with the microphone now.
Thank you very much.
The point I want to make about the veteran leader of DA, Helen Zille, about the issue of Mr. Brink, is the fact that she's threatening ANC because the caucus that has been taken against them, we've heard a number of things from Action SA and other parties that indeed DA is working on betrayal, and when she said DA is there for the economic growth and create jobs for the municipality and all those kinds of for me, Zille, she's just somebody that who thinks is above the law in South Africa, and she thinks that everybody can take and toe the line about it. So we are appealing to the General Secretary of the African National Congress just to reject the call, because every time anything that ANC has done, he wants to threaten them. For example, you look at the Bella, it was the same issue that they are going to go away with the ANC. So I'm appealing to say that they must not actually call back Mr. Brink to be the mayor of Tshwane. That's all what I wanted to say, that let them reject the letter of Helen Zille. Thank you, Thulas.
All right, thank you so much for that. That's Mboneni in Ennerdale there, weighing in on politics and the politics of coalitions and the government of national unity, and the conversation we had earlier on with Helen Zille, who's written to the ANC demanding that they support the re-election of Celias Brink in Tshwane. Let me speak to Lerotodi, who is in Roslyn and wants to talk to me about the issue of crime. Good morning to you, Lerotodi.
I
hope I pronounce your name properly.
Yeah, Lerotodi, you're correct.
Yes, sir. Talk to me.
Yeah. I wanted to. One of the caller was saying, this thing, what is happening in Eastern Cape, is still going to be happening again. You are saying no, he's wrong, but he's correct. Look, Thulasizwe, how many shootings do you have this year in Durban?
I was actually agreeing. Sorry, Lerotodi. I was actually agreeing. I was saying to the caller, I wish you were wrong in what you are saying. But actually, sadly, I have to admit that we can't sitting here say this was the last mass shooting of this nature, knowing what we know in our country.
Yeah. So, our country is messed. Look now. You know, remember a Soweto Tavern shooting?
Yes.
That's a guy that come in and shoot everybody there. And again, 2 taverns happened the same thing in Mpumalanga. The shooting was happening like that.
Absolutely.
You see now, like our investigator for, is it what Vox? You have the guy called, is it Charles in Cape Town? Is that not because he was investigated? Yeah. From Charles now we have a Benedict Fitol. But after we buried the person, it's business as usual. We forgot that the country is out of our control.
And there's that phrase, business as usual. Business as usual. It should be business unusual. All right, I've got to thank you for that. That's Lerotodi there in Roslyn, weighing in on the issue of crime. Lastly, let me take a call from Victor in Mankweng. And Victor, you want to talk to me about Helen Zille this morning. Good morning. All right. Let me talk to Victor. No, let me go to Gabelo. Sorry about that confusion. Gabelo, good morning. You are out in Durban and you want to talk to me about Helen Zille. Good morning.
Hi, Thulasizwe. I think it's the first time speaking to you. That's
welcome.
Okay. That's a story for another day.
I've been waiting for you.
Thulasizwe, I hate the way you guys would downplay what Helen Zille is telling us. Helen Zille is threatening the country. Remember, these people that are in national coalition, which means when he says there will be instability into other metros, so he's threatening the country. That is a treason. Because now when he says there will be a lot of municipalities around the country, they'll do whatever they want to do if they don't retain that blinking. Now, it's indirect saying even the national coalition is not safe, because the president not so long ago was signing the bill and the MEC or the minister of the DA did not show up. Now, which means what Helen Zille is telling us, he says there will be no service delivery, there will be nothing in the country because the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa is giving them back to the apartheid neoliberal, the tickets to be in government. They feel so entitled to Thulasizwe. They feel like they can be in government with all costs. If they're not, they're going to do this thing. It's wrong.
I hear you, Kabelo. In fairness to Helen Zille and the DA, I did not understand them to be threatening the country's stability in that sense that you are mentioning. It's a matter of whether or not they continue to cooperate with the ANC.
And discuss if they come to deadlock. It's politics. They will agree at some point. They won't agree at some point. But you don't have to threaten us as a citizen of this country.
Kabelo, let me move on. Still on the same theme, let me take Victor, who is out in Mankweng. Victor, you also want to talk to me about Helen Zille and what she had to say this morning. Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call, my brother.
Thank you.
Miles Guru has been spot on. Same story with your predecessor there. What's his name? Stephen Grotes. I never phoned through SAFM because, they were banning people there.
Well, Victor, we're not...
Now, about Helen Zille.
I can assure you now, we're not banning people. The fact that we are talking to you now.
Thank you very much.
Do make your point, please. Yes.
I'll tell you. Let me tell you about Helen Zille.
Yeah.
I thought she's very clever, but anyway, the lager is back in her policy. What is this lager? You know what I mean? The Africans are not so good at it. She is telling the majority of people in this country she is a national party apologist. FF Plus, I don't know why they don't join her back. And so is AfriForum. They bring the lager back. Blacks are just in numbers. They put them in the very position where they are useless. Look at this Mandela. He's already...
All right, that's Victor in Mankweng there, weighing in on the politics of coalitions and what Helen Zille had to say this morning. And that brings us to 8:30. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the South African Police Services say they are close to making an arrest in the Lusikisiki mass shooting in the early hours of Saturday. 17 people were shot and killed in 2 separate homes. The death toll has now risen to 18 as the latest victim succumbed to injuries in hospital yesterday. The battle for the Bavenda kingship throne will resume at the Polokwane High Court today. Princess Masendi Mpepu, daughter of the late King Chimakadzo Mpepu Ramabulana, is challenging her uncle Tony Mpepu Ramabulana for the throne. And the South African Weather Service has issued a level 5 warning for disruptive snowfall in the Western Cape. It has urged residents and travellers to exercise caution as significant traffic disruptions are expected due to a high likelihood of snow and ice accumulation on the roads. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, if you're anywhere near Joburg's Crown area, do try and divert, get onto some alternative routes before you get in the thick of it. It's really heavy. The M2 coming through from Joe Slovo through Crown interchange down to Main Reef Road's bad. Main Reef Road in from Amalgam Industria, super heavy queues. Motorists complaining of being stuck there for an hour. Crownwood Road coming up from the Crown Gardens and from Mayfair on Church Street going down to Main Reef Road. It's all very super heavy, so just try and avoid that run into Central Crown. get on some routes that run either south or north of that, probably up through Fordsburg would be a good idea. Pretty heavy on Joburg's N3 south, a crash between Modderfontein and the Linksfield Road causing a pushback to Alex. The N3 north getting caught, having a look at that. And big traffic on the M1 south into a crash at Buccleuch. That queue almost back as far as New Road. Durban, the breakdown on the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction's being cleared. There's another backlog and a half now moving up to a secondary vehicle that was broken down by Gateway. That remains heavy from as far back as Kwamashu. Cape Town, heavy pressure today. There's been some rain about Cape Town this morning. Hangover from the weekend. Roads wet and slippery. The N1's under real pressure from Plattekloof all the way through to city centre. Even the elevated freeway coming off that M1 is so badly backed up that it's pushed Nelson Mandela Boulevard traffic right back beyond Searle Street. So just after Hospital Bend is where you'll pick up that run through to city centre. Both those highways are really busy. And Marine Drive still jam-packed as well as you come from Tableview through Sunset Beach on your way towards Milnerton. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
Hey, good morning to you once again, Dumi. I see that the Orlando Pirates coach, Jose Rivero, is quite buoyant after the start they've had to the season.
Absolutely. He says that he hopes him and his side will remain unbeaten in the Betway Premiership. Remember, they beat Richards Bay 1-0 yesterday to claim a third straight win. A late goal from Kabelo Dlamini gave the Buccaneers a sixth successive win in all competitions, and they're now second on the log, level on points with Mamelodi Sundowns.
The most important is that the group knows and we all knows how difficult it is, how much we need to sacrifice ourselves every week, and that's something that we want to protect right now. We don't want to take another way. I don't know how to express myself here, but that's the important. We know why the results are coming, and we don't want to lose the tempo. We don't want to lose the tune in that sense. So it's our responsibility now to take care of ourselves, to still working hard, to be humble, to know that in the moment that if for a minute in the games we think that it's going to be an easy game, we're not going to find again ourselves getting good results. So we need to take every game as a final, as a serious one, as an important one. That's the mentality that we have right now.
In other results, Chipa United returned to winning ways in a hard-fought 2-1 win over TS Galaxy. Polokwane City and Stellenbosch FC played out to a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that they are on a lookout for a high-quality striker to beef up the club's attacking force. This comes after the Glamour Boys lost 2-1 to Mamelodi Sundowns this weekend. And according to Nabi, he believes that there were elements of his side's play which took away from what he's trying to build with the team. And I've got a joke here. I read a tweet that's, I'm assuming that they are kind of like playing with Kaizer Chiefs fans, because after the Marumo Gallants game, the fans were like, we want Real Madrid.
Yes.
After beating Amazulu, they were like, give us Manchester City. And now after Mamelodi Sundowns, they're like, we want VAR.
Whoa.
Yeah, but elsewhere, more pressure is on Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag after the Red Devils lost 3-0 to Tottenham Hotspur. Goals by Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski and Dominique Solanke saw Tottenham stretch their unbeaten run in all competitions to 4 games. Now Manchester United are rooted in the bottom half, and for ten Hag, questions are arising about what exactly he's doing for the team. Then in tennis, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka set up a clash with Coco Gauff at the China Open after marching into the last 16. With a straight sets victory, the former world number 1 defeated Katie Volinets 6-3, 6-2 in Beijing. In cricket, Ireland beat South Africa by 10 runs in their second T20. Mark Ada took 4 for 31 as Ireland restricted the Proteas to 185 for 9 in their allotted 20 overs. Earlier, Ross Ada blasted 100 runs off 58 balls as the Irish posted 195 for 6 in their innings. Finally, in golf, Team USA won their 10th consecutive President Cup title and a record-extending 13th overall after beating the international team 18.5 to 11.5 at the Royal Montreal Golf Club. SA's Christian Bezuidenhout was one of 3 players from the international team to win the singles match on the 4th and final day. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'll be back again this afternoon.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndawling Lechela for that. And Ndawling, good morning to you once again. I see that confidence among civil contractors has hit an 8-year high. Why is that? What's happening there?
So morale ticking up in the construction sector. This is according to the FNB BER Civil Confidence Index. It increased to 50 points in the third quarter from 44 in the second. Now, this increase was due to better profitability and tender activity, as well as a winter free of load shedding, a stronger rand, and increased confidence in the government of national unity. Now, despite the optimism, concerns over construction mafias and crime's impact on the sector persist. Some contractors that were surveyed continue to raise concerns about the damaging effects of crime and government inefficiency on their businesses. Now, a recent report by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime noted that extortion practices have become deeply rooted in Cape Town's underground economy, and there's been a collaborative effort to get this under control, with law enforcement officials also involved. So while confidence ticks up, FNB highlighted some risks to the industry, including downbeat economic growth and high capital costs. Looking ahead, the outlook is mixed. While order books have deteriorated, respondents expect better activity and employment in the next quarter.
Now, this next story involves chicken, and if you know anything about my dry sense of humor, I was tempted to go down that path, but I will not, simply because it's an important conversation, is it not, Ndawling, about the pricing of chicken and poultry products. The industry is speaking and being emphatic about it.
That's right, Tula. So the South African Poultry Association plans to submit a proposal to the government by November to exempt certain chicken products from VAT. This is the second time they're doing this. Now, SAPA says this move aims to benefit many households and boost the poultry industry, which employs around 146,000 people. Now, exempting products like frozen chicken, for example, could increase sales by 10% and reduce prices by 15%. SAPA's CEO, Isaac Breitenbach, notes that exempting these products would have a major impact on the government's revenue, but would provide significant relief to consumers, as chicken accounts for 2/3 of South Africa's meat consumption. Now, Treasury last updated the list of zero-rated food products in 2018, considering the addition of certain chicken products, but decided against it due to the potential cost of 2.1 billion rand in lost revenue. This decision was influenced by concerns that local producers might capture the benefits without passing them on to low-income households. Now, there's also been some experts also raising similar concerns, with ABSA Agribusiness senior economist Marlene Lowe cautioning that zero-rating chicken products could have unintended consequences on consumption patterns and prices.
So I guess it's not a straightforward issue where it just looks like it makes sense to you, but there are other considerations to weigh up. Lastly then, Ndawling, ahead of the opening of the JSE in about 20 minutes, what kind of a day can we expect, as well as your recap of Asian markets and US futures?
Let's start off with the local market. So JSE's international peers are pretty mixed, and it seems like the local bourse could also be in for a mixed start this week. In terms of local news, not much happening today, but markets will be digesting a trading update from SPAR. In currency markets, though, the weaker dollar really working in the rand's favor. It's trading at 17.06 to the dollar. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, US futures are flat. Traders there are awaiting fresh catalysts to move markets. And in Asia, those stocks most likely to end mixed, with upbeat factory activity boosting Chinese markets. Japanese stocks struggling, with traders there digesting comments from the new prime minister.
I've been very restrained, Dowling, but I'll be failing in my duty if I don't ask you. Did you leave your voice at Joy of Jazz?
Perhaps.
Dowling Lechela there. She's back with you with more updates tomorrow morning throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
The wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. 4 dynamic design duos reimagine and reinvent 4 apartments in a century-old building nestled in the vibrant suburb of Sea Point, Cape Town. Armed with creativity, determination, and a limited budget, the duos fight against the clock to transform this grand old dame into a contemporary masterpiece, all under the critical eyes of an expert judging panel. The winning duo will claim a grand prize of 300,000 rand, with an additional 100,000 rand going to the fan favorite team, as voted by viewers. Channel your inner wow with My Design Rules, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take some of your calls now as we lead the conversation together. Let's speak to John, who is in Davidton. And John, you want to talk to me about the issue of killings in this country. Good morning to you.
Really, Thulasizwe, are we really South Africans? Are we really failing even to combat the simplest form of criminality? Can I tell you, Thulasizwe, I was at VET in 1986. I did sociology, and there was one professor I proposed to do a research on police. She blatantly refused. Now I understand why. Because, you know, the worst criminals that we have in South Africa are the police themselves. And their recruitment strategy is very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. They are recruiting and attracting the bad people. Secondly, I'm worried about how many people must die and how worse the situation should be. Before the president, our president, Ramaphosa, is silent, it's quiet about many things. He is quiet, dead quiet.
Yep.
Why are we doing this? Don't we have intelligence to just prevent things from happening?
Yep.
Before we respond, Thulasizwe, what is going wrong? I'm staying in a place, all the electricity poles and lamps have been, and no one has ever been arrested.
Let's leave it there.
What is happening? And the other problem that we are doing wrong, Thulasizwe, I must be honest with you, especially President. The moment we talk about things and want to come with solutions, we are cut off. As if this talk show is just a gimmick.
John, no. I do need to give other people a chance. Thank you so much for that. That's John in Davidton. I think we've heard you, we've taken your point, and for my part, there's a lot there that I actually agree with from John that he has made as an input this morning. Let's go to Billy, who is in Sekhukhune, and Billy, you also want to talk about the issue of killings in this country. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Thanks, Silas. Let me start off this month by saying that the Commissioner of Police in KZN, Konas, tells us very clear that we need a political will to combat crime.
Yeah.
all its levels and form. That's the problem. That's where the core of our problem lies. Let me take you back into the 90s when we were negotiating at CODEF. There was a rampant violence
yes,
sponsored by state. Even today, this violence is sponsored by state.
Sure. That's a serious allegation.
It is. Indeed, I can prove it. Because tell me if the MK has ever handed over its weapons to any state authority. There's none. That question was asked. Have we ever handed those weapons? No. That is the answer.
You and I share that concern.
Yes.
You and I share that concern, Billy.
Yes. What are those weapons? They are doing highway heist. They are doing political crime.
Right.
They are doing all sorts of things.
Billy, let me leave it there for now. Thank you for that. I do share your concern about the lack of a campaign to retrieve weapons, and you're absolutely right to point to our history of the liberation struggle. Where are those weapons? What happened to them? But also it just feels like over and above that, there just continues to be a stream, particularly of automatic rifles and the likes, and you wonder, where are they coming from? Why can't we plug that gap? Let's speak to Thabiso in Polokwane. And Thabiso, also on the same theme, deaths and killings. Good morning to you.
Yeah. Morning, Thulasizwe. Good show.
Thank you.
I think first thing and foremost, we tend to move quite quickly as a country.
We do.
I mean, if you check when there are these mass killings, they don't happen in South Africa only. You probably might have seen in the US, it happens quite a lot. You see that. You would see the entire media entourage of the country, everyone standing, trying to ask questions, whoever is there, mayors and everyone, about what would have led to the killings, and trying to even tell us about the profile of those that would have died and many other things. We move quickly as a country. Maybe we are too tolerant to cry as a nation itself, because I can assure you, those that would have committed that horrendous crime are people that we stay with in our communities. And people are just going to keep quiet. And perhaps think that the police will give a silver bullet and a solution to this crime. It's a very bad thing. But on the issue that he raised now, that where are the weapons, I mean, we must not over-exaggerate this particular issue. I remember well in the past that there's been a call. You remember there's been a call, I think, from the side of Thabo Mbeki and all of that, where the police was able to say each and everyone who has a gun must come and bring those particulars. There are a number of people who handed cards.
We do have that, Thabiso, but my concern, I guess, is slightly different. Those amnesties, I've never seen a point where they are followed by a proactive campaign to say, we've given you 3 months, you've not surrendered your weapons, we are now going into these communities to retrieve the weapons. And I think that's where my issue is. But I do agree with you, there have been gun amnesties from time to time. All right, let's take a quick traffic update before we proceed with the rest of your calls and other inputs on the show.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's very heavy coming through Midrand today. There's been this crash at Buccleuch interchange to the bottom of the N1 Midrand, right at Buccleuch. That's where the crash is. The traffic is extreme. It's all the way back through to about Olifantsfontein at this stage. Also a crash on the Mike 1 further down between Greyston and Corlett. So that is slow as you make your way through Sandton to Melrose. A collision on the N3 still with us between Modderfontein and Linksfield Road. And that traffic heading to Galuli's on the N3 stays back from almost as far back as Alex, and some heavy traffic going north from Galuli's. Having a look at that. The whole Crown Central area should be avoided. Some really extreme traffic there. Main Reef in from Amalgam Industria. M2 from Joe Stovo through the Crown interchange and down to Main Reef Road. Crownwood coming up from the sort of Crown Gardens area. South on Church Street from Mayfair. It really is badly backed up. Try and route yourself either down through Boyson's Reserve or up through Fordsburg if you're trying to get through that area, but not particularly into Crown. Durban, the N2 going north north, another breakdown. This one southbound, I beg your pardon, southbound before Umhlanga. So the big backlog going north has cleared, but if you're from Sibaya coming in from the airport towards Gateway, that stays heavy. And Cape Town in the rain this morning, conditions staying fairly heavy, particularly the highways. You've got big backlogs on the N1 from Platterkloof, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard, queues from just after Hospital Bend all the way into the city centre to the elevated freeway. That's how busy it is. And Marine Drive still jam-packed this hour, coming out of Tableview down through Sunset Beach. It is starting to ease, but still very busy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
From 1936 to the future, from Ekaya, Ekasi, to Jozi and Urkan to the world, from dance and poetry to stages filled with our hopes and dreams, from SABC radio stations to cross-border triumphs, from drama, comedy and heart-pounding sport to raise our flag, from culture and spirit to the streets where talent is grown, from generation to generations and the shows that kept us entertained. So, what are you waiting for? Kumbule Kaya. SABC has always been home to our joy, stories, and Msanti's magic. Come home to SABC Plus, still home to the best of who we are.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Did you know that 80% of South Africa's barley is sold to the beer industry? This locally sourced barley, along with other natural ingredients, plays a vital role in beer production, contributing 2.2 billion rand to the country's agricultural GDP. Join South African breweries on the 3rd of October in Caledon as we dive into the state of the beer economy. SAB, brewing a future full of cheers. South Africa, be sharp, not for sale to persons under 18.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, lots of conversations on the go at the moment, the issue around crime as well as reaction to what Helen Zille had to say to me a bit earlier on. Let's take a listen to some of your voice notes now.
Good morning, Thulas. It's Kenny from Centurion. I feel you actually handled Helen Zille with white gloves. There are so many questions that you could have asked her. I'm not sure what's happening because you sounded just like Bongani Bingo. You're dealing with these white politicians as if you are dealing with your bosses. No, man, no.
Good morning, Thulasizwe Simelane. I think in listening to Helen Zille, she's just lost. Because for me, DA was on coalition with Action SA, not ANC. So meaning ANC was an opposition at one. So if you're an opposition, it means you can do anything to be in power. If then it comes to push where like we put a vote of no confidence, you do so. So I think Helen Zille should separate the GNU against then the other arrangement in provincials and in metros. Thank you, Thulasizwe.
Hi, Thulasizwe, Uvusi Lushaba lo in Durban. Allow me to answer you what Umamzoda means about the DA, about Helen Zille. What's happening to the DA in Tshwane, it's exactly what they did to the MK. The residents of KZN, 45% of them voted for MK, but the residents of KZN are being held at ransom by the DA and the ANC. So I'm using Helen Zille's own words of not wanting citizens of other places to be held at ransom. However, the KZN residents are being held at ransom by the DA and the ANC and the IFP in their minority. Thank you.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
All right, thank you for those voice notes. I do hear you, Vusi Lushaba, about what it is. In fact, it actually dawned on me as well what that reference was to the DA getting a taste of its own medicine. As for treating Helen Zille with kids' gloves, I don't know about that, but I take the point that you are making. I do feel that it wasn't possible to bash her on anything. It's a political decision they've made, and you can't make them change it in terms of their collaboration with the ANC. To this now, the South African Democratic Teachers Union has passed a resolution to defend the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, BELA, amid ongoing scrutiny from various political parties and civil society organizations. The union held its 10th National Congress in Boksburg on Saturday, where it re-elected its top 8 leadership. Let's speak now to Nomusa Cembi, who is SADTU's media officer and spokesperson. And Nomusa, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. Tell me a bit more about this resolution on the BELA Act. How are you hoping that this will help with implementation of the Act?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to SFM listeners. Our decision was informed by the attitude of the Minister of Basic Education towards the signing of the bill into an act. We know very well that she boycotted the signing. And now she is the person, as Minister of Basic Education, she's the person who's supposed to implement, to ensure that the act is implemented. So by that attitude, we are very much worried, if she's going to do justice in implementing the act. So we are going to be following closely and monitoring closely to ensure that she does what she is supposed to do.
You don't believe her when she says... You don't believe her when she says, we are professionals, I don't support the act, but once it's signed by the president, I will implement it fully?
We don't believe that. What she did, that public display of in boycotting that said a lot. We really don't believe, but that's why we are saying we are going to monitor her very closely to see to it that the act is implemented.
And in fact, Nomusa, my understanding is that you are calling on the president to implement the outstanding clauses of the BELA Act urgently. So are you saying that this 3 months non-operation of these clauses was unnecessary? The whole act should come into effect immediately?
Yes, we felt it was necessary because the bill was in the making for close to 10 years, and broad consultations were undertaken. So we failed to understand what kind of consultation, what more is needed after, this thing has been in the making for so long. What will this 3 months do? And we also would like to see transparency in that consultation as to who is going to be consulted really. And we'd like to see a situation where, just like in the making of the bill, every stakeholder and everyone was invited to make submissions. So we want the same processes to follow, that every stakeholder should be allowed to make or to be consulted or to make recommendations.
I've got to leave it there. Thank you for that. That's Nomusa Cembi, who is SADTU's media officer and spokesperson. And that's how we come to the end of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks to the team that put it all together. Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Eastern Cape mass shooting death toll rises as police launch a manhunt for suspects, and disruptive snow warning for parts of the Western Cape. Good morning. The South African Police Services say they are close to making an arrest in the Lusukisiki mass shooting. In the early hours of Saturday, 17 people were shot and killed in 2 separate homes at Ngobozana village in the Eastern Cape. The victims are said to be relatives and neighbors who were preparing for a traditional ritual scheduled to take place later that day. The death toll has now risen to 18 as the latest victim succumbed to injuries in hospital yesterday. National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate.
I can confirm that our members have collected all evidence from the scene. They have interviewed key witnesses and community members. They remain hard at work in analyzing all available information, and they are following up all leads. We are confident that